For the last year and a half, my hyperfixation has been reading V.C. Andrews novels. When I first found the first book that was written by V.C. Andrews herself, Flowers in the Attic, I really I really related to the main characters in it because just like them, I had put my faith into adults that I thought were a lot more for me than they actually were. Like, they were a lot more for themselves than for me. They were a lot more selfish than for me, even though I was the child and I should have been first priority. So, I very much related heavily to the, the main character in that book, and the main character is quite similar in V.C. Andrews' books. Most of the time, it's just like a young, beautiful girl who is vulnerable because in the times that these books takes place, in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, even before that, all the way through to the 90s, gender roles, things were seen completely differently. There were so many laws that women couldn't even have their own bank accounts, have their own anything. And what I really love about these books is that it shows, like, how much men back in the day, how much power they had, and how much they would use that power to manipulate the women in their lives. I just feel like V.C. Andrews' books really show the realities of abuse, and especially abuse back in the early to mid 1900s, how the laws that were in place at the time could be used against women, and how religion could be used against women. That's a big part of the books that I love. Sorry, I wanted to say this entire video is going to be all over the place. I'm going to be ranking V.C. Andrews' men. I have read all these books that the men are in here, and I've seen all the movies of all these men that have been in here. I'm also going to talk about why I love V.C. Andrews and her books, and why I don't particularly like Andrew Niederman or trust him with her knowing what happened in her life and knowing her backstory, and also the differences in their writing, and why I personally think that V.C. Andrews is a much better writer than Andrew Niederman, and you can definitely read the difference and feel the difference between a V.C. Andrews book versus an Andrew Niederman book. But yeah, so this video is gonna be all over the place. It's just gonna be a V.C. Andrews fest. I've been wanting to make this video for so long because it's just been in my head and I needed to get this rant out. I've been watching so many YouTube videos on line talking about V.C. Andrews books, reviewing them, going through the summary of the books and such. And I feel personally that a lot of these people don't fully understand what V.C. Andrews was trying to get at, and they don't understand, like, I don't know. They will talk about something that Andrew Niederman did that's negative, and then put it on V.C. Andrews, and I'm like, guys, no, hold on. Honestly, the name of this video should have been an Andrew Niederman rant, but I don't think many people know that Andrew Niederman is V.C. Andrews' ghostwriter after she died. So I just kept it as V.C. Andrews' rant, but it's more of an Andrew Niederman rant because I'm obsessed with these books, but it's also, in a way, I'm kind of mourning it as well because we never got truly an end to any of the series that she started because she died. Yes, Andrew Niederman supposedly went off of notes from what she wrote before she died. But the way that he writes these books, like, I feel like he doesn't follow through with a lot of the small little details that VC Andrews would put in there for a reason and then have that follow through later. Like with the whole ring that like in Flowers in the Attic, the ring that her oh my god, I have to remember all of the main characters' names. VC Andrews does tend to reuse names. Maybe not VC Andrews, actually, more Andrew Niederman reuses names and gets it all confused. The ring that Kathy's father gives her, that actually comes back into play, like in the book, versus like, do we even? Right now, I'm in the middle of reading one of the sequels to Flowers in the Attic that Andrew Niederman wrote after the 5 books were already written and published of the main series. This one is going back and detailing Corinne's life, not the children's mother, but Garland's first wife that was Malcolm's mother that ran away when Malcolm was really little. That's the story I'm reading right now, and they're talking about the like Flowers in the Attic sigil, and I don't remember there ever being a sigil. I need to reread Flowers in the Attic. But that was just an example, but there's so many other I don't know if I can't think of any other examples right now, but like he literally like will just mention things and then not even follow through on it, whereas V.C. Andrews, I feel like every little thing was thought of, like the layers and layers in Flowers in the Attic versus the layers in the Dawn series that Andrew Niederman wrote. It's night and day, like with the little stuff that leads up to it. Like, why, like, I'll think about it more as we talk. If I think about something that doesn't fully add up with Andrew Niederman, I will say that example. I was going to write a script for this video, but then I realized that you guys can see my screen since I was going to be doing a tier ranking. So I was like, no, I'll just do it off the cuff. So I might have some more VC Andrews videos coming to you guys if there's some stuff that I realized that I missed last time. I also did draw a bunch of like VC Andrews maps of like what the different mansions look like laid out, and like which rooms are which and facing where. And I think that's really interesting, and I would like to do like little like shorter videos talking about those specifically. That would be really fun. I forgot to say this, guys. Please do remember to subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and to follow me if you're watching this on Twitch. I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't let its people go live until you have 100 subscribers and meet a few other requirements. But I've already met the other requirements besides getting 100 subscribers, so you guys would really be helping me out if you got me to 100 subscribers on YouTube. Then I could start going live from YouTube and then also continue going from Twitch. And then of course follow me on Twitch. Bilal Barstow is my YouTube handle on YouTube. It's also in a link in my Twitch profile. So yeah, thank you guys. I'm gonna get on with the video. Heck yeah. Okay. I love VC Andrews. I love her so much. And I have my own theories on what her life was like and what led to her writing the books that she did. I have not read the memoir that Andrew Niederman wrote for VC Andrews, because how is this man who wasn't even in VC, didn't even grow up with VC Andrews, you know what I mean? Like, how would he know what she went through? It says he interviewed like people in her life. Sorry, I forgot to pull up the chat. Let me pull up the chat. It says he interviewed people in her life, but again, I don't trust the people in her life, especially with the way she wrote the different people in her books, and the way that Flowers in the Attic was written for VC Andrews' mom. She even says at the beginning of the book, "For my mother." that tells me that she didn't have a very good relationship with her mother, because notoriously in the books that she wrote, the relationships between adults and children in these books are not very good at all. And I think that's a representation of how V.C. Andrews herself felt. Um, it does say, I know a lot about Andrew Niederman's memoir, but I just haven't read it and I refuse to. um, but it does say that V.C. Andrews died a virgin. I don't know if I believe that. I know that she was diagnosed with her disability at a younger age, and so her mom was kind of more embarrassed about that, because in the time that she grew up, it was a lot more shameful to have a disability, and a very visible one, because V.C. Andrews needed to be in a wheelchair eventually. So I think her mom did some abusive things to her. I think she locked her up. I think she treated her like she was not subhuman, was always like, "Oh, you will never find a husband. You will never do this." And then I think, well, I guess she would have died a virgin, yes, because maybe she hadn't consented, but I don't know. I have a theory, and maybe this, like, people can say that this is like shitting on VC Andrews' name or whatever, but I think maybe she had been molested by a trusted person in her life, probably a doctor of some sort, or maybe maybe it was kind of mutual in the way that it was she was underage and kind of being maybe used by this man, but I don't think her mom knew about it. Just because of the way that VC Andrews writes in her books, that's just how I feel. That's the vibe that I get. But again, I have no proof. This is all just claims. Whatever, Andrew Niederman, if you're watching this and you're like, man, this person is crazy. I don't know. I just love my girl, and sometimes, Andrew, you get on my nerves with the way that you write your books. um, Compared to her, I did want to say that my favorite book by V.C. Andrews is definitely My Sweet Audrina. It's very, very creative and very good. And then I actually kind of liked the sequel that Andrew Niederman did write for that one, specifically because the characters in that seemed accurate. But we are going to get more into characters when we are doing our ranking. Um, so yeah, I think that she had some type of sexual experience, whether it was consensual or non-consensual. I just don't think she ever told her family about it. Um, and she was just very private about her life. And I mean, if you've been through the crazy shit, like anything close to the crazy crap that like happened in her books, like I think that she might have experienced some of, um, then you would understand why she would just be like more shelterous of it. And also, again, in the time that she was alive, it was a lot more shameful to be in a wheelchair, to have disability. I think I really even more heavily love VC Andrews and feel for her, because I myself am also disabled. And oh my god, I just the feelings she write about are so raw and real in these books, like in Flowers in the Attic and in Heaven and in My Sweet Audrina. Like, I can just feel every little emotion that these characters feel as well, and I completely understand. And oh my god, cuz when you're a child, you you want to just trust that the adults in your life have your best interests in heart. Um then sometimes you find out that that's not true, and it's just it's so real. Oh my god, and then especially with it being like men using what they can over women, like trying to make sure that they don't leave. Okay, you know what? I've decided we need to start this ranking so that I can get into the specifics of what these men do and freaking like okay, yeah, I need to do this. I need to do this. Okay, okay. So, starting off, I am not remembering names, but I know faces. I know exactly who this man is in my head. But I can't think of his name. He's the bad guy from Heaven. Who's Heaven's father in, uh, Yes, okay. First person on the list that we hate. Most of these guys are not going to even make it past, like, straight to jail. Legitimately. I don't think anyone's gonna get in You Can Do No Wrong. I don't know, man. Okay, anyways. Tony Tatterton. Right, okay. So, he is just a liar and manipulator all throughout, basically. He knew the entire time that Heaven was staying with him that he was Heaven's father. Like, he had the suspicion, but he still manipulated and blamed Heaven into making her feel bad and making her come to him and saying, like, oh, it's my fault because I told you the wrong date for my birthday. But, like, literally, like, the way he manipulated things, he did it on purpose. He even said that he was like, no, I made you and my brother get together. I said that you shouldn't be together so that it would encourage you to be with him more. I manipulated that entire situation. Like, what the fuck? He's such a weirdo. And while his wife is well, Jillian, he pays no attention to her. Like, yes, they go to, like, the parties and such together, but, like, he isn't, like, super, like, loving and crap towards her. He's way more into her daughter and stuff like that. And even Jillian can see that and is, like, quite jealous of her daughter because of the way that he is all over the daughters and not all over his own wife. And yet, when she becomes mentally ill and sick, he literally just gaslights her and gaslights Heaven and is like, don't worry about it, Jillian's fine, let's shut her up in her room with that, we'll just give her a bunch of meds, no, my brother isn't here, you're just seeing things, even though she actually was seeing the brother. But that was making her go more crazy because she thought she was seeing, hold on, I need to look up Tony's brother's name. Troy. So, you know what? I may as well just go through. I mean, I was going to save it for when we rank Troy, but so Troy does run away because he's, like, scared of his love affair with Heaven and scares himself because he actually feels true love for her. And Troy and Tony are very, very close. So Troy tells Tony everything and then leaves, and Tony just flat out lies to Heaven and is just like, no, my brother's dead, and flat out lies to his crazy lunatic wife, saying she's seeing things when she sees Troy about the property. He says, oh no, that's just a ghost, you're just seeing things, you're crazy, let me give you more medication. And that leads to her abusing the medication and eventually ending her own life. And then he has the audacity to be like, oh, I'm so sad, I did love her, I did love her. Did you? Because, I mean, I know you loved your brother more, and you stood by him, but you could have just been honest with everybody. But he just can't do that. He just can't do that. He was just stuck in the lies for so long that he couldn't. So he's the reason why Jillian died and thought that she was crazy even though she wasn't. And he lied to Heaven about so many things, about being her father, about buying her father's circus, about, oh my god, just so many things. The twists and turns and the craziness of this man's mind, and the way he, like, makes it okay in his mind, he tells himself that it's okay, is that he's like, no, I was just doing it because I love her so much. I want her in my life, and I don't trust these other people, so I'm gonna do this. But, like, if you really loved her, you would be honest with her and be straight up with her and tell her all this. Oh my god, I can't believe he manipulated her dad that Heaven had always had an on and off bad and good relationship with. He paid the dad off, basically, her stepdad off, to not talk to her. and then the dad dies without ever getting to reconcile with heaven, even though she wanted to really bad. And that is on Tony. Yeah, so, anyways, we hate Tony. He our words, Heaven's mother, was his stepdaughter, which is crazy, to make heaven. And then oh god, does he actually do something to heaven, or does he only attempt? I don't remember. And then he also attempts with Heaven's daughter. That I remember. He doesn't actually get away with with our wording Heaven's daughter. But like, oh my god, I was so happy that he didn't get away with it for a third time. I think he did actually do something to heaven, but this man is disgusting. I hate him. And in his mind, he's like, no, I loved Heaven's mother. I loved her. I was just trying to make her see how much I love her by R-wording her. Sir, that's not how this works. That's not... He was like, she pretended to be stubborn, and she acted like she didn't like it, but that was just part of our sexual games. Like, what? No, I think she really didn't like you, dude. You were her new stepfather, and she loved her dad. Heaven's mother loved her dad so much, and she was not happy to be in your house, having to move out and not being able to see her dad anymore. The only reason why she did it was to be with Troy, baby Troy, Heaven's mother. So, he's just disgusting, evil man. I hate him. Lake of Fire. Was there even any question? He pisses me off. There's also going to be a few men in here that I will rank that aren't actually on this list. Like the Men in the Dawn series, or the Cutler series. And then I don't think I put... Shit. I don't know if I put Garland Foxworth on here. If I didn't, we're still ranking him, though. Because F. Garland, who is Malcolm's father. Okay. I know we're jumping on so many names, and so many of you are like, I don't even know what books you're talking about. What is going on here? If you want to just stay for the passion, you can stay for that. I will be telling you about these crazy-ass books that, yes, so much crazy crap happens, but also they feel so real. And the religious trauma of it all is so real. How much V.C. Andrews uses, like, the expectation of God on his people, and turns it into something else. Like, because these women in these books are just trying to be good daughters, good godly women, and so they're listening to everything that the adults in their life said. But again, the adults in their life are selfish, and some of them want to sexually prey on them. So, like, they are following what they're doing, but that ends up with them getting sexually abused. So it's like, oh my god, yeah, this shows how religion can be used in a bad way. If you're told to always just listen to your elders no matter what, sometimes there are bad elders that you shouldn't listen to, but that, crap happens like that in between the lines, because these young women, they don't, young people in general, religion just gets crap so twisted up in people's minds, on what's right and wrong. They don't actually go with their gut and what they feel is right and wrong. They try to go off of a book, and then crap ends up happening to them or the people around them, and these books just show that so accurately, especially ones written by V.C. Andrews herself. Like, she does it so well. That is something I did want to mention. Like, I feel like there was a lot more religious tones, religious stuff that was talked about in the books that were written specifically by V.C. Andrews. But then when we get to the Andrew Niederman books, I feel like the religious aspect is kind of downplayed a lot more. I feel like it's not part of the main storyline. Like, it's just like a little bit of extra, like, throw shit in the person's face, because, like, these girls are just suffering so bad in these books. So I just feel like V.C. Andrews does write the religious trauma a lot better, and writes very realistically on how naive young people can be, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna trust this person. They obviously want what's best for me, when it's like, no, honey, you gotta just trust yourself. Trust you more than anyone else, please. Okay, yes. Next. This is Audrina's dude. Arden. Now, there is a difference between Arden in the movie and Arden in the books, because Arden in the movie, he did not have to. He did not like. Uh, let's just see. Audrina's little sister, who is mentally disabled, is not in the movie, so you don't see how kind of crappy Arden is early on. Um, in the movie as much as you do in the book. In the movie, they try to make him a lot more redeemable, and it's a lot less of a question whether he just saw the R word happen to Audrina or if he possibly participated. It's not even a question in the movie. It's he saw it happen and then ran away because he was young and didn't wasn't sure if he could take on three boys, which is understandable but still really crappy of him. And like, I still can't believe Audrina like married him and stuff like that. But in the book, he just anytime because Audrina cares so much for her little uh sister and wants to hang out with her and bring her everywhere and wants to move out of the house and bring her sister with her and stuff. When she tries to run away with her little sister and Arden is like, "Why can't you just leave your little sister? Why did you bring her?" He's so annoyed. And it's like, because she deserves to have a good life too and not live in this hellhole of an abusive place. If you think Audrina shouldn't be subjected to this, then obviously the little baby shouldn't either. But he's like, "Oh, she's mentally unwell. She won't even know what's happening, and she's like too young. She's a baby or whatever." But that doesn't matter to me. The generational trauma, Audrina could see that and wanted to rescue her little sister from that, and Arden was just like, "Come on, she just doesn't want to leave," because in my head I had canon her baby sister with Down syndrome and autism. Um, so, autism changes really hard, especially when you're being taken out of your safe place. I could see why Audrina's little sister would break down when they were trying to run away, but that doesn't give Arden the right to be like, "Oh my god, why did you even take her?" And then once Arden and Audrina get married, fucking Audrina's dad just gets his claws into him. And this is what I mean by the way VC Andrews writes, the way that men kind of encourage each other and can like gang up to do harm without even realizing it, with the power that they used to hold in society before women could vote and before women could own their own bank accounts and before women could all do all this. It's crazy because Arden was so ready to move out of the house with Audrina, because he heard all the abuse that like was taking place and stuff like that from her, and was like, "Yeah, of course, like I believe you. Let's go." Then he meets her dad and is just charmed out of believing that anything is wrong. He's like, "No, it's fine. You're not even." Of course, Audrina doesn't fully like, I don't know, doesn't fully like tell him everything either, but like he knows that she's wanted to leave for so long and has been locked up and captive here, and that her father wouldn't even let her go to school. And yet when her father's like, "Yeah, I'll give you a job at my firm, and you can have special rooms in my mansion, and we'll build you your all this stuff," Arden just sees the money and just goes with that and just forgets any of the abuse that his wife endured and begs for them to just stay there. And then also once they're married, he knows that she went through a schmape, when she was little. She knows that because he was either there watching it too scared to stop it, or he was possibly part of it, which is shown in a dream that Audrina has in the book, where he actually participates in the dream. But we don't know if this is just a dream that she made up or if it actually happened, and it's never confirmed nor denied near the end of the book. All Arden says whenever he's finally confronted with the shmape that happened that he knows about, he's just like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. So it's like, oh, what did you do? What did you do? So yeah, so he knows that this happened, right? He knows that she has sexual trauma. And yet, he's like, please, please sleep with me on my wedding, on our wedding night. This is our wedding night. I'm your husband. You're supposed to feel safe with me. Please, please. Audrina's in the bathroom for like an hour, kind of hyperventilating, obviously, because she has this sexual trauma that's just coming back, and she's having such bad dreams lately, and they've been affecting her. And he's just over here like, please, please, and begs her, and basically coerces her into having sex with him multiple times. And he claims to love her. Makes me so mad. And then throughout this, Audrina's cousin, while Audrina and Arden are growing up together, Audrina's cousin's growing up alongside them. She's always been very promiscuous and such, and so we've seen her be naked in front of Arden before, and Audrina would like walk in, and Arden and Audrina's cousin would be in like a compromised position, but Arden will insist that he said no the entire time. But it's like, that's suspicious already. That's weird. Why am I walking in and my cousin is naked in front of you? Yes, maybe she's just doing that to manipulate you, but you're also like not like being forceful enough to tell her no to get away, because she keeps doing it. So she isn't seeing that you don't want it. Obviously, you're not making that fully clear enough, and you should be, because you know that you want Audrina and not Vera, which is Audrina's cousin. So when they grow older, Vera's doing all of these murders. Spoiler alert for all of these books, by the way. I'm sorry. Like, I have to talk about everything that happens because it is crazy. Vera's doing all these murders by pushing people down the stairs, and attempts to murder Audrina by pushing Audrina down the stairs. So Audrina gets in a coma after falling down the stairs, but can still hear the stuff that's going on around her. And Vera is literally sleeping with Arden while Audrina is in a coma. And Audrina can hear that. And that is disgusting. And basically, Vera's trying to convince Arden. The fact that he's even considering this it just shows that he doesn't even love Audrina. He just wanted to have sex with her. He just saw the beauty. He didn't actually like Audrina herself. He may have participated in the shmape or watched the shmape, but I think that doing that and or watching that made him obsessed with her and made him want to make her his. And he just saw her as an object and not as an actual person. And once she couldn't open her legs for him anymore, he's like, well, I guess I'll have sex with the person who looks just like you. Ah! What? So, anyways, the fact that he's even considering this, Vera's coming to him and is like, why don't we just pull the plug on Audrina's life support? Like, it's just, everyone's so sad that Audrina's in a coma. We may as well just, like, finish the deed. And Arden literally is like, give it a little bit more time, but sure. Like, he isn't fully saying no. He pisses me off. Okay. And then, after all this, Audrina's little sister, helps Audrina, get out of bed by using a little cart from Arden's dead mom, who was, disabled, that Audrina's little sister now uses. She helps Audrina get out of the room, while Audrina's like half drugged and such, and Audrina's able to make it out to the rocking chair that she's been forced to sit in and remember her shmape for. Her dad is so weird. When we get to her dad, oh my god. I'll go more into the rocking chair and the craziness. But she basically, as she's coming out of her coma, she's realizing Vera killed her. She's realizing that Arden was there, and she's also realizing that she is the first and only Audrina and not the second Audrina like she thought. She always thought she had an older sister because of her dad, and we will get into that. So she's realizing all of this, and is out in the graveyard where the first Audrina is buried, but she digs and finds that there's no body there. And first she confronts Arden, and this eventually leads to them hate effing each other. And I hated this freaking chapter in the book so much. I was really glad that Audrina was finally actually wanting to have sex and was like kind of like punishing him by like having sex with him in like a forceful way, but like no, he was just happy to be getting some. He did not give a fuck. He was just saying sorry, and then you had sex with him. I know that this was her getting back in charge of her body. It's the first time that she's actually wanted to have sex because she's realizing all this and she's so pissed. But like, girl, no, not with the man who just conspired to kill you. Not with him. Ah! And then she like confronts her dad about it and stuff. She does end up staying with Arden and her father in the end and staying in that house. She attempts to leave one more time, but it doesn't work out. And that's kind of the bittersweet end of the book because, again, her little sister refused to leave. And so she's like, no, I can't leave you alone, so I'm going to stay and try to protect you from the generational trauma that has been going through for generations, and we're going to try to stop this trauma here, and I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to take care of you and keep you away from these disgusting, harmful men, because I can't just leave you here with them. So that's like the bittersweet ending of, you know, older sister duties are never done, especially if your younger siblings aren't out of the house yet and need protecting from the parents and or guardians that are in the house. Yeah, so she does staying. People can argue that the second book in the Audrina series doesn't count because V.C. Andrews herself didn't write it. V.C. Andrews only wrote the first book, and Andrew Niederman wrote the second book. But like I've previously stated, I really genuinely like the second book in the Sweet Audrina series. I like the way it ended, and I like the way everyone is characterized. I felt like all of it was really accurate. I don't know if V.C. Andrews herself would have written the story this way, but I'm just thankful that Andrew Niederman saw it the way I did, and that is, Arden is a fucking ass and a bad guy, and he needed to be killed and dealt with. So what's awesome about the sequel book is that both Audrina's dad dies, and Arden does end up getting killed near the end, and then Audrina and her little sister get to live happily ever after in the mansion that they grew up with, and they turn it into a happy home between them. Women power, women together, community, we love it. Fuck men who want to take advantage of people. Arden eventually in the second book takes advantage of Audrina's little sister when she eventually comes to like 16, 17. He pretends to be Audrina's dead father at that point and, grapes Audrina's little sister, which sucks. Yeah, and it's just, I'm really glad that he is gone by the end, and the girls don't go to jail. Like, the coroners are like, they get it. They get it. So, yeah, after explaining all of that, I don't know if I want to put him, no, he's like a fire, especially if he participated in the assault, that Audrina experienced when she was 7 in the woods, then he's disgusting. Okay. Next, we have, this is Kathy's son, Bart. Now, Bart, I do have some sympathy for. We get to see his point of view in the third book in the Flowers in the Attic series, The Doppelgangers. And he is very much the black sheep of his family when he's a child. I was not a fan of the way that Kathy and her husband who is also her brother, I forget his name, hold on. Chris. Chris Dollinger. Um uh her Kathy and Chris, I don't think they were very good parents, even though they vowed to be better parents than theirs, when they were up in that attic and stuff, because they basically were second parents to their siblings while they were locked in the attic for 3 years. And they promised that they would never be like their parents and like do this and or desert their kids like this. And given they are better parents than their own parents were, I mean, I feel bad because Kathy's dad just died in a car accident. He couldn't control that. But like, Corinne's mom literally not Corinne's mom, sorry. Kathy's mom, Corinne, literally just locked them in an attic when she decided that she didn't want to see them anymore. So, in that way, that Kathy and Chris are a little better than their own parents and grandparents and didn't call their kids devil spawn and such. But because of the abuse that they both suffered, they are both very much not mentally well, especially Kathy, because she has been taken advantage of by so many men in her life, which we will get to. The men that she's taken advantage by are on this list, and we will talk about that. That some of the stuff that Kathy and Chris do doesn't make sense. Chris is always assuming that whenever something bad happens, Bart is the one that did it, even if Bart isn't. And that's just because Bart has a little bit more of an attitude and is a little bit more, in my opinion, neurodivergent than his other brother and sister. Hold on. Okay, so Jory's the older brother. Jory's also on this list. Um, Chris and Jory, they understood each other's brains a lot better. Chris understood Jory's brain and how it worked a lot better. Chris did not understand Bart's brain as much and why Bart reacted to things the way he did. But instead of empathizing and trying to pay more attention to Bart because he doesn't understand and trying to learn, he ends up more just punishing Bart a lot more and more than he needs to, and being extra mean to him and making Bart the scapegoat of everything, even when Bart doesn't do stuff wrong certain times. And that's everyone in the house. The housekeeper is also very much thinks Bart is evil and does all this, and even Jory at a certain point in the book starts thinking that Bart is bad. But eventually Jory does stick up for Bart, which I'm glad for, and he's like, no, Bart did not kill my dog. It was actually the neighbors. Please don't put this on my little brother. Different stuff like that. But I swear, Kathy and Chris have this idea of Bart, and they put it on him when he's so young that Bart can't shake it as an adult, and he does become the manipulative, angry incel that he becomes as an adult. In my opinion, due to the way that he was raised by Chris and Kathy. I feel like things could have gone so much more differently if Chris and Kathy had just been honest with their kids about their past and like, hey, this is a secret that we're keeping, and this is why, and it's something that really shameful. This is what happened, this with this family member and such, and this is why we don't talk to this family member. Especially Jory, since he's at that age, like, he would definitely be able to understand. He was a teenager. He would be able to understand for sure. And Bart was getting there. He almost 10 in the book, something like that. So I really think they should have been more honest with their children, the way they said that they would be when they were talking about being parents in the future and Flowers in the Attic. But since they weren't, Bart became the kind of gross man that he did become. Um, his own father figure, Chris, didn't love him, so he, as he was growing up, just was always craving to be approved of, to be loved by an adult figure, especially an adult male figure. So he would latch on to any adult male figure that he could find, even if it wasn't good for him, even if that person wasn't good. And for him, he latches on to religious fanatics. In the third book, it is John Amos, which is his grandmother's husband slash butler, because the John Amos manipulated his grandmother Corinne into marrying him. This is the same Corinne that locked her children in the attic in Flowers in the Attic, by the way. Corinne is now grandmother to Bart and Jory, but they are estranged. They don't talk to their, like, the parent, like, Kathy and Chris do not talk to Corinne, and understandably, like, she tried to murder them, so F you, girl, stay away from us. But Corinne sneakily moves in next door, to Kathy and Chris, and is talking to Kathy and Chris's children without their consent. And that's how John Amos is getting into Bart's head. And these are heavily religious men, John Amos is, and then also Bart idolizes another man later in his life that's also heavily religious and has like the incel vibe of women are evil, women are Satan's spawn, women are here sent by Satan to distract you from what you're here for, and that is to be a strong man and to conquer and to not get involved in your feelings, and not to do not treat women as equals. It's all this different stuff, and then it also incorporates religion in that too, like women are subpar to men. John Amos gives sorry, I'm sorry that I'm getting so tripped up on names. Okay. John Amos gives Bart Malcolm's journal, and Malcolm is Corinne's father, who is a weirdo and an abuser. Malcolm is who Corinne was trying to hide Chris and Kathy from in the first book of Flowers in the Attic. She's like, oh, don't worry, you guys will only be in here for a couple days until I tell my dad about you, and then we can let you out. And days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months, and months turn into years, and she's like, well, he would write me out of the will, if he knew about you, so let's just hush until he dies. And then he does die, but she doesn't let them out of the fucking... Yeah, so he's bad guy. He was manipulating Corinne and being like, you can't have children or else I'm writing you out of your will. So that just shows you how much of an asshole he is. And so John Amos, who was his butler before and then became Corinne's butler later, stole Malcolm's diary and gave it to Bart and said, treat this as like a religious text and go off of this. And that Malcolm's journal, with having all of the religious fanatic male figures in his life, turns into a religious fanatic himself who is very jealous and can't handle not being the center of attention and can't handle being upstaged by anyone. And so he conspires, and yeah, eventually, like, what's good is that they do find that Bart finds out that John Amos was the one who killed Jory's dog. So he doesn't really like John Amos as much near the end, and I believe John Amos dies or runs away. I forget, because I think I remember at the end of that book, like, John Amos didn't die. I think he got out, but then we never hear from him for the rest of the series, which is very odd. So yeah, I mean, except we get his past, we don't get his future though. But again, that's also convoluted. John Amos is also on this list, so we will also talk about him soon. Let's talk more about Bart as an adult. As an adult, Bart he finds Malcolm's long lost brother. Wait, no. Not brother, sorry. Long lost son, sorry. Joel. And Joel has now turned into a religious fanatic after almost dying. He's like, thank God for me not dying, so now I'm just gonna turn my whole entire life to God and hate women, and women are the devil, and my little sister got everything. He's also on this list. My little sister got everything I didn't, so we hate women. He never marries. Um, Bart finds him, moves him back into the house, and starts taking his counsel, and they end up conspiring to hurt Jory, to hurt Bart's little sister, uh, and to hurt like Kathy and Chris, uh, because he just can't. They both are like, you guys are just such sinners, and you need to be punished. So it's just so weird. Thankfully, though, near the end, Joel is outed as a bad guy with proof from Kathy. Um, and so Bart does like get rid of him. I forget if Joel dies or if Joel's just thrown out. But thankfully Bart eventually does give that up. But what is unfortunate is that the way Bart's story ends is him going into being a TV pastor in the 90s. He goes in and he's one of those pastors that's on the TV and is like, donate now to our church, to the Lord, so saveth you, and all that. So he's basically just going in to Manipulator Center and just continuing on. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The book frames it as a good thing, like, yay, he's actually going in and like doing something, and doesn't feel the need for a father figure now that Chris is dead, because Chris does die in the fourth book of the Flowers in the Attic series, and Bart actually does mourn that. And so Bart kind of mellows out, but he still is a religious fanatic by the end. It is one of the teleprompter guys, preachers on there that's like, donate now. So yeah, and then what makes it even worse is that the movie f's it up even more and makes him marry his own little sister, which the whole entire point of the Flowers in the Attic series is that there's been this crazy lockup of children. Children must be seen and not heard, and incest secretly going on, and abuse going on, for generations in this family, and that's what the whole series is about. And what's good about the end of the series in the fourth book is that that is broken. That cycle of abuse is broken. There is no more incest after Kathy and Kathy and Chris. And they never physically abused their children, which is good. I think they do a spanking at one point, which made me mad, but like that's like in the gray area, I guess. I mean, I still think it's abuse. I don't think you should hit your children, but like they never whipped them with a literal whip like in Flowers in the Attic their grandparents did to Corinne and such, and the grandparents did to Chris. So yeah, I would say I don't I feel like if there was like a middle straight to hell Lake of Fire, I think I'm gonna still go Lake of Fire because he permanently disables his own brother. He's just a weirdo. He's I feel like he's the most incel. No, he's not the most incel. There's so many incels on this list. So it's just, yeah. I swear I could literally talk about VC Andrews forever. As you can tell, like, we have only done 3 of these and we're still on it. But Whatever. Okay, so that was Bart Jr., Kathy's son. This is Bart Sr., whom Bart Jr. is named after. Um, yes. Okay, so this is Bart Sr. He is okay. So in Flowers in the Attic, the four children get locked in the attic, so that Corinne can win back her father's favor. But in the end, she's like, oh no, wait a few more weeks, months, years. Oh, yeah, he's dead, but I didn't tell you. She doesn't say that. They find that out though. So she ends up lying and never even telling her father, and he dies without even knowing. That she has children, so that she's able to stay in the will. While her children, Corinne, while her children are locked in the attic, she meets and marries another man, without telling her children, like, fully what's going on. They spy and figure out what's going on, way more than, like, what, their mother tells them. And, Kathy sees him and is kind of entranced by him and thinks he's very handsome. He's very young for her mother. Her mother's a lot older than him, and he's like in his early 20s. Of course, it's still weird because Kathy is only like 14 at this point. But she still thinks he's cute, and she like kisses him while he's sleeping. And that's something that Chris gets mad at. And I mean, Chris is next on the list, so we'll talk about that later. But so Kathy's kind of had this childhood crush on Bart Sr., who's just Bart right now, since she was little. Let's go! Oh my god, we are getting into all the crazy drama and trauma, okay? We're gonna be here for so long. I've already been here for a while, and I'm not even barely, like, I'm gonna yap. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Kathy grows up with this kind of like crush on him. And then later in life, she vows to get vengeance on her mother after her and Chris are released out of the attic. Daddy issues and failed marriages. Yes. And so she vows to get revenge on her mother, and how she does eventually do that, she doesn't know how she's going to, but she knows she's going to. She doesn't decide how until she's older. But how she does this is she decides she's going to sleep with her mother's husband, and get pregnant with his child because her mother is so old that her mother's barren. So she wants to get pregnant with her mother's husband's child and rub it in her mother's face that she's pregnant with his child and she's not. So that's what she does. Kathy goes a little cray-cray and gets pregnant with Bart's child, and then goes to a party in the second book in the Flowers in the Attic books, and announces to everyone, hello, I am pregnant with Bart's child, and that is my mother, and she locked me in an attic. And Corinne literally goes so crazy that it's not exactly explicitly said, somehow a fire starts in the mansion. I think that it's Corinne who started it, and in the movie they made it explicitly that Corinne is the one who starts it because she goes crazy from being outed by how much of a horrible abuser she is. Because she herself doesn't even believe those things that she did. She's like, no, I didn't. I was always a great mother. And, like, gaslighting herself. So she literally burns down the mansion. It's not explicitly said in the books, but that's what I think. That's what I think happened in the movie. They make it explicit that Corinne burns it down. And Bart Sr. dies in that fire after he finds out what a terrible woman his wife Corinne is, even though he's been cheating on her the entire time with her daughter. But he doesn't know that Kathy is Corinne's daughter. He has no idea. So he is just finding out all this crap, and then he just dies right after that. I hope you die in a fire. No, but I didn't want I don't know. Bart, he actually wasn't terrible. Yes, he cheated on his wife, but Corinne also was terrible and was manipulating him too. So, like, I would say straight to jail because he he cheated on his wife. I don't, I don't know. I think, or maybe annoying. I don't know. I think I'm still going straight to jail because 14-year-old Kathy does kiss him in his sleep, and he's like, "Oh my God, Corinne, I dreamed that there was a young version of you that kissed me." And it's like, why would you want a child version of your wife to kiss you? That's fucking weird. So yeah, no, I'm putting him in. Bart Simpson would never help. So I'm putting him in straight to jail. So yeah. Next person we have is Chris Dollenganger, which is Kathy's brother, who she's locked in the attic with for those 3 years. They act as parents to their twin little siblings, a boy and a girl, because obviously, like, they are left alone with these two little babies. They're not actual babies; they're just like really young children. That the children, I believe, they start off at like 3 or 4 and then go into like 5 or 6. So that's like how long they're in there with these children. So they are helping these children grow up, and basically becoming surrogate parents. Chris, honestly, as a character, just piss me. Nom nom. Oop, arsenic help. Ah. Tierlist is how Christians view people. That's so true. So Chris really annoys me because in the whole situation when him and Kathy are locked up with these twins, I like that he's trying to keep a positive spin on things, but that also means that he's insisting that no, our mother isn't doing anything bad. No, our mother has our best interest in heart. Just wait a few more days. Kathy, why are you getting mad at our mom? Kathy, why are you don't get mad at our mom. She's just trying to do what's best for us and is trying her hardest. When no, Kathy is right all along. Kathy's right all along. No, their mom does not have their best interest in heart, and is not being selfless, and is not talking about her children with her parents. Instead, she's out going on cruises and meeting men and getting married. So, there's all this. It takes Chris forever to actually wrap his mind around the fact that his mother does not care about him. In the first book, that, in my opinion, he is the reason why him and his siblings don't escape sooner. Kathy immediately is like, we need to get out of here. And he's like, no, it's fine. Then eventually when Chris is actually like, okay, no, actually, I understand what you mean. Yes, there is something wrong going on here. And they actually try to escape. The twins are already so sick with arsenic poisoning that they can't even climb down. They're also really scared of heights, the baby twins. They are so poisoned with arsenic that they don't even have the strength to climb down the makeshift rope that they make from the attic down to the field. And I'm just like, God damn it, Chris. You do know that if you guys had tried earlier, the children would still have their strength. So yeah, he makes up so much excuses for many chapters in the book for Corinne, who is him and Kathy's mom. And by the end, when he's out, like, they've been out stealing supplies to try to escape the attic. He stays out all night without regard for Kathy. Yes, he was finding out information that Malcolm is dead and that his mother just deserted them and doesn't live at the mansion anymore and was just gonna leave her children with the grandparents for the rest of their lives, presumably to die. Because at that point, she's already set it up that the grandmother would be giving arsenic to them. So he finds it out and comes and tells her. And then they are finally able to leave. But it's like, it's too late, buddy. And like, oh my God, you could have come in a little bit sooner because, oh my god, the way that Kathy was freaking out, and then their brother does end up dying. So he just takes forever to realize the truth. And then even in that, when he finds out that Kathy kissed Bart while Bart was sleeping, while Kathy was out stealing money for their escape, he then goes and schmapes his own sister. Obviously, they had been locked up in the attic for a very long time, in a time where they're filled with hormones, and their grandmother all throughout their lockup was putting in their head like, oh, Chris is evil. What has Chris been making you do, Kathy? Has Chris been watching you undress, Kathy? She's been putting it in, their grandmother has been putting it in their minds that something bad and incestual would happen, and that's kind of led to it happening. I feel like it wouldn't have happened if the grandmother wasn't so, like, weird about the crap and giving them weird rules about not changing near each other and not doing that, because it was, like, forbidden and so focused on. That was something that they started focusing on too. And then, of course, you know, they're full of hormones. They're going through these changes because they're both teenagers. Chris finds out that Kathy kissed Bart. He gets jealous and then schmapes Kathy, and Kathy in her head is like, no, it's okay. Like I kind of wanted you to. Which, no, girl, don't gaslight yourself. This is another example of what I wanted to say of I love V.C. Andrews' writing versus Andrew Niederman's writing, because in my opinion, V.C. Andrews writes it very well in showing that, no, this isn't consensual, no, this isn't okay, but because of the time period that this is written in and that this is happening in, the girl is gaslighting herself into thinking that it is okay. Even though it's not. A lot of people mistake the writing in the books. They're like, oh, no, this just wouldn't be okay today because it's condoning this, and it's like, no, it's not. It's the actual character just isn't listening to her own gut. She's denying herself, and that's part of the horror of the books. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to point out was what I saw in a lot of, like, the reviews that I saw on YouTube. People were like, oh, these books are just abuse and, what's it called? Oh my god. Not, like, you know, just, like, tragedy after tragedy for no reason, and it's just to make you sad. But no, like, everything that V.C. Andrews herself wrote, it all leads up to something, and everything has a reason, and it makes so much sense when she writes it, versus when Andrew Niederman writes it. I do think it is a lot more like, oh yeah, this is just happening just because, you know, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to bump the mic, because, you know, this is a V.C. Andrews novel, so effed up shit happens, but, like, I genuinely think that V.C. Andrews was writing, like, her own stories within and making each character her own, and then Andrew Niederman came in and was just like, why don't we just make a copy of each of these over and over and over again and just write the same story over and over and over. So I don't know, it frustrates me when people say that V.C. Andrews has certain patterns when it's actually Andrew Niederman, because yeah, she writes things so much more thoroughly and flawlessly, and characters don't just get throw it off. It's just so much better from her. And I do not think it's just trauma porn for no reason. Yeah. This isn't realistic. Lol, have you seen the Trump family? Y'all have it? That's so true. Hookup culture's bad, but marrying men 2 weeks into a relationship and then divorcing 5 people is... It's so true! Yes. Oh my god, yes. So that's Chris as a child, and then even after they leave the attic, he does something that pisses me off even more. And when Kathy wants to get revenge right after they got out of the attic, she has the arsenic and the dead rat as proof that her grandma and her mother were feeding her and the children poison, and they have a dead brother now, so there's literal proof of that. Kathy wants to take this to the police, and Chris is over here like, no, just let it go, it's fine, we need to move on. So they end up throwing away the evidence, and so, like, yes, they do eventually get revenge in the next few books in the series, but it doesn't happen in that first book, and it's not like jail from like government or whatever. It's all personal revenge and stuff like that. So that made me so mad. That ended the book with like, really, Chris? Really? You're still sticking up for your mom after all this, after your brother is literally dead? So yeah, that made me mad. That was the first book. And then in the second book, he's making me even more mad because as Kathy is out and dating other men in the second book, she's growing up and such, he's over here whining and like, but you said you love me. We had sex. You liked it when we had sex. Why aren't you with me? Oh, you should be with me. No, we were meant to be together, and you know it. He's like gaslighting her into being like, see, the only person who can understand you is me, because I'm the only person who went through that with you. Because eventually, in the second book, unfortunately, Kathy's sister Carrie does end up committing sewer slide in the second book. So it is only Chris and Kathy left, and they are the only ones who know what they went through together and such like that. So he's just using that as a manipulation tactic and is like still trying to get with her even when she's like, no, I have another boyfriend. All of her other boyfriends are on this list, by the way, and we will detail them. Sir, you are my brother. Exactly. But because Kathy's boyfriends die in this book over time, Chris is like the only dude left that she's actually like had a love affair with, and she has children at this point, so she's like, okay, I guess I will marry you, Chris, since I have children and this is the 60s and what am I going to do? Or the 60s or 70s. So, like, you know, she does end up being with him. And you guys already know how I feel about, sorry, I got distracted looking at the thing. You guys already know how I feel about, Chris's parenting. He sees Bart as the scapegoat and can't get that image of Bart out of his head. He cannot see Bart for the child that he is and for the child that is still being molded, and instead has it set in his mind that Bart is a troublemaker, and just uses Bart as a scapegoat, uses Bart to get his anger out, punishes Bart by giving him spanking and locking him in the attic in their house. So I mean, it's no wonder that Bart turns into the monster that he does, is because fucking Chris. I will say that Kathy isn't innocent either. She plays into it as well and is very suspicious of Bart as well. She shows a little more love to him than Chris does, though, because Bart has such a hatred for Chris, and understandably so, because Chris just... This is someone you're supposed to be taking care of. This is your son. I know it's not his actual blood, but like, this is a child in your house that you're supposed to be taking care of. You do fine with Jory and Bart's little sister, but no, not to Bart himself. So I blame Chris for the person that Bart becomes in the future. And then Chris also pisses me off with the way that he is as a husband towards Kathy. He is very gaslighting towards her. When Kathy is like, hey, I think something's wrong with like Bart. I think he's being influenced by someone. I think someone's talking to him. Also, there's something weird going on next door. Chris is like, no, nothing's happening. It's just your PTSD flaring up, and you need to calm down. You're crazy, woman. Then Chris actually does end up going and investigating next door because he starts seeing weird stuff after Kathy said it as well. And he finds out that yes, his mother, who abused him, tried to kill him and locked him in an attic, has secretly moved in next door to be with the grandchildren without the parents' consent. And what does he do? He goes and talks to Corinne for multiple days, for weeks, without even telling his wife Kathy what he's doing, where he's going, and in his head is like, I forgive her, but I know Kathy could never. and all of this. So he, after all of this, after his brother is killed, after all of this, he still forgives his mother, and like is okay with her being in Bart's life, even though he's seeing weird stuff happening from Bart. But he just blames Bart. He's like, no, Bart's just a shit, and my mother isn't doing anything to affect him or anything like that, and I just won't tell Kathy because Kathy could never forgive our mother like I can. Dude, you literally suck. And then this leads to Kathy and Corinne's lives being put in danger because John Amos is like, okay, let's burn down the house with the women inside because women are evil. Because Kathy finds out that her mother's there, and Kathy's hands are rated E for everyone, so she's beating up Corinne, she's beating up John Amos, she's beating up everyone, even though Kathy's in crutches at this point. From falling during a dance number, but she doesn't give a fuck. She's like, I hate you! Why did you lock me in the attic? You killed my brother! All of this crap! But while she's distracted beating up Corinne, John Amos does get at her, lock them in the house together, and tries to burn down the house. Kathy eventually does escape, but that's how Corinne dies, is in the burning house that's next door to Chris and Kathy's house. That's burned down by John Amos. Yeah, and all of this could have been avoided if Chris had just been honest and told his wife what was going on, so then she was prepared, then she wasn't just, suspecting going over there, and then is faced with her mother, who was her abuser and her brother's killer, and, obviously explodes and gets mad and starts beating up people and shit. I do not blame her. I do not blame her at all. And I'm so mad at her husband for not telling her what's up, because all of this could have been avoided. Your wife could have not been in harm's way if you had just told her that her mother had moved in next door. So, I'm going to say straight to jail. I think in the past I would have put him at annoying, but because of how much people really love Chris and sympathize with him, I just can't. I'm like, guys, but he did all this disgusting, weird crap. Please, please. So, there's all of that. Yes. I don't like him, but fuck the police. Honestly, considering kids and whatever, they could have just been sent back to the attic. You are true. The police wouldn't have believed him. That actually could have been true, but I don't know. I feel like they could have just saved, even if the police wouldn't have believed them since they're children, they could have saved the evidence till the future. I don't know. I guess at that point it's like, oh, it's been so long, but this is child murder, okay? This is child murder. So, like, I don't know. I feel like the police would have done something, but maybe that's just me. Alright. Next person on our list is Christopher, who is Kathy's father. He's the one who died in the car accident in the first Flowers in the Attic movie. I mean, not movie. Well, yes, movie and book. He dies. And that is the catalyst to starting the entire Flowers in the Attic series. That is why Corinne has to take the children back to her parents' house and put them in the attic, is because Corinne can't support the family on just her income, which is no income. She has no job. Corinne doesn't know what she's doing or know how to do anything. She's annoying. But okay, so this is Christopher. They of course named Chris, their son, after Christopher. He is. It gets so convoluted when they start going back in time with these characters' backstories. But oh god. Basically, oh my god, I'm like, how far back should I go? When we get to Malcolm, we are gonna be going into all of this crazy crap with Chris and how Malcolm started up and grew up into the man that he is. But so Christopher is Malcolm's brother, basically, and Malcolm is Corinne's father, right? It's Malcolm's half brother. How this happened was because Malcolm Schmapes his stepmother, who's very young, she because his dad Garland, we are gonna rank Garland. Garland is not in this list of pictures right here, but we are gonna rank Garland anyways and talk about it anyways. He's the main guy in the book that I'm reading of V.C. Andrews currently. Basically, Malcolm, after Garland dies, Schmapes his stepmom, gets her pregnant, and then she births Chris. And Malcolm manipulates his stepmother into like leaving and stuff like that. But letting them keep the baby. Okay, no, sorry. Hold on. I got it all mixed up. Hold on a second. Hold on. I got this all mixed up. Okay. Goodness gracious. Garland is Malcolm's father. Garland manipulates a woman who's under 16 years old into marrying him. He gets her pregnant, and then he dies after a fight with Malcolm, and she gives birth to Chris. Then Malcolm Schmapes his stepmother after Garland is dead, and she gets pregnant with Corinne. But oh my god, this is so convoluted. I am so sorry. But Malcolm pays off his stepmother to give him Corinne and take Christopher away. And for them to say that Corinne is Malcolm's baby is Malcolm's true baby with his current wife and not with his stepmother. So they like keep it a secret. So Corinne is Malcolm's daughter, but she is not Olivia, which is Malcolm's wife's daughter, if that makes sense. And Olivia is the grandmother who poisons the kids in the flowers in the attic. Corinne is the one who tells the grandmother Olivia to do the poison. But Olivia does do that, and Olivia is the grandmother who's the abuser in Flowers in the Attic. So that adds an extra layer to why Olivia maybe hates Corinne and really likes seeing Corinne get punished and stuff. Corinne is not actually Olivia's daughter. So that makes so much sense as to why she's so jealous of her and hates all the attention that Malcolm gives her. The way that Andrew Niederman wrote the 5th book in the Flowers in the Attic series, I didn't really like that, the way it's all convoluted like that. Some of it doesn't make sense to me. And maybe we can do a deeper dive on that. I do plan on rereading the Flowers in the Attic series after I finish Beneath the Attic and Out of the Attic, those 2 books in the series as well. I want to go and reread the first 5 books, because the way that Andrew Niederman writes that 5th book, it's just, a lot of it doesn't make sense. It doesn't agree with the different stuff that Corinne would say in describing her childhood. She describes that she was beaten. She describes that her parents were heavily religious when she was growing up. She describes that she was locked up in the attic. Malcolm describes that he was locked up in the attic. And from what we see in that 5th book, none of that seems to be true, because it does detail Corinne's growing up, and in that book she's treated very well. So I mean, it could be said that Corinne is just manipulating her children even more, trying to make them feel bad for her by telling them all this crazy crap that she went through. But to me it makes more sense that she wouldn't be lying, that it would be true, because who randomly gets these religious gets really into religious just late in their super late in their life, when they're already like in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, when they've spent most of their lives thinking that religion is stupid, because that was Malcolm and Olivia. They had no liking to religion, like, whatsoever. Malcolm always hated women, but that was because his mother left him when he was really young. he just only later uses religion as his excuse to why he's like, this is why I've hated women so long. It's because they are Satan. But he doesn't realize that till later in his life. So I really didn't understand why, like, Andrew Niederman, maybe he just forgot all the details of Corinne describing her life and Malcolm describing his life in the third book. But yeah, this is what I mean, like, Andrew Niederman, he lost a lot of the details of Corinne's background when she was growing up, of Malcolm's background when he was growing up, and the way that everything is set up towards beginning of Flowers of the Attic is completely different in that fifth book. And it really irks me and makes me mad, and I really wish V.C. Andrews could have finished that book in her lifetime, but as we all know, it was not to be, so we will never know what truly she would have canonized in her head and what she wouldn't have, but it was just very odd to me in the way that everything was described. In my opinion, Chris should have been left with Corinne when Malcolm's stepmother left, because it is described that Christopher and Corinne grew up together, and that's why it's such a disgustingness when they do get together schmexually. But it's described in the fifth book that it's not until she's a teenager and Chris is a teenager that Chris comes back and needs to live with them after his mother has passed, which is Malcolm's stepmother has passed after she moved out and took Chris with her. So it doesn't make sense as to why, like, Olivia would be all weird with Kathy and Christopher when they're like 12 and 14, because this is before even Corinne and Christopher moved in. Like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm trying to say Christopher is the dad and then Chris is like the son. That's what I'm trying to say. I apologize if you guys are getting it confused, but Christopher's with Corinne and Chris is with Kathy, if that makes sense. But, oh my god, it doesn't make sense, because in the first book, Olivia's always like, oh my god, Corinne, you and Christopher, grew up together, you and Christopher knew each other as children, and that didn't stop you guys from fornicating, so I don't think it would stop your children who are devil's spawn. And like, the room that they stay in has all of these, like, religious pictures in it, and Corinne talks about how she remembers, like having to go to chapel and how religious her parents always were, and she thought it was annoying, and she's like, oh yeah, I remember these paintings in this room, the paintings of judgment from God that are hung up in the room that Olivia, the grandmother, locks the children in, like. But none of that is mentioned in the fifth book when it's talking about Corinne growing up. So, that's just a plot hole, and I think it's just because Andrew Niederman forgot the details in the series, because he didn't write the first 4 books. V.C. Andrews did. So, he probably just, like, forgot all those little tiny details and stuff like that, which really annoys me. And that's just the beginning of, like, yeah, I knew I would think of something where it's like the details don't add up. I'm glad I was able to bring that back up around, because he just really annoys me with that. So anyways, Christopher comes back when he's like 15, 16. So this is way older than Chris and Kathy were when they moved into the attic. So again, it just doesn't make any sense that Olivia would be like, oh, you two are gonna have incest. Chris and Kathy are gonna have incest, when it's like Christopher and Corinne did not grow up together. They only met as teenagers and became horny for each other. So it makes no sense. Christopher is very sweet. Thankfully, he doesn't have any, in my opinion, there's no incestual undertones between him and Kathy. I think their relationship is very sweet, and he helps talk with her through things, and they have a really, really nice, cute, close relationship, and he's a very good father and doesn't treat any other kids like more better than the others. He does specific stuff with Chris, he does specific stuff with Kathy, and does specific stuff with the twins, different things for the different needs of the different children. So I think he was a very good dad, never demonized any of his children, which is very good. Was not a religious fanatic, did not schmape anybody. Um, was a dutiful worker for Malcolm when he came back to work for Malcolm, even though he didn't have to because he's Malcolm's brother. Malcolm should have welcomed him back with open arms and just let him stay there, but instead Malcolm's like, no, I'm gonna make you work for this money for college, and I'm gonna make you clean the entire house, even though I already have maids. I'm gonna make you clean the entire house. But Christopher takes it all in stride, does what he's told, and just falls in love with Corinne. They were never told the truth that they actually are brother and sister, because it was such a shame that Malcolm had schmaped his stepmother. So they didn't even know that they were related when they were fornicating. So that's another thing that's like different. Like, what Olivia describes in the first book, Flowers in the Attic, is that Corinne and Christopher knew that they were related and they started fornicating. But that's not what happened. They didn't know that they were related until after they were caught fornicating, and Olivia was like, no, you are siblings, you don't understand, you are related, so it's just very, very frustrating that Andrew Niederman got all these, like, details wrong and mixed up and such. But for all of this, I would say, I think the only annoying thing about him is the way that Andrew Niederman F's up the writing. I would say can do no wrong. He doesn't, like, he didn't know and stuff, and he just loved a woman. He just fell in love. What's wrong with that? He just fell in love. So, yeah. Next. Oh, God. Who is this guy? Shit. Oh, that is Audrina's father. Let me look up his name. Damien. Yes. I hate this man. Okay. Like I said, we were going to get into what Damien fully does with Audrina when we got to him. So we are finally to him. So basically, in My Sweet Audrina, Audrina is walking home from school on her birthday, and decides to take the woods route because her cousin Vera said that there was going to be a surprise for her or something like that, or said that the other way was blocked, so it made Audrina go home that way. But unbeknownst to Audrina, there's a bunch of boys, a group of boys who are older than her. Audrina's like 7 or 8 at this point. There's a bunch of boys hiding in the woods waiting for her, and they jump her and gang schmape her. These boys are around like 12, 13, 14 years old. Arden could have been one of them. It is unclear. Arden is Audrina's future husband. Could have been one of them. It is unclear. But anyways, Audrina comes home after the gang schmape, and her mother, thinks she's dirty and gives her like a really scalding hot bath with like bleach in the water, which is disgusting. And Audrina's father finds out about this, and Audrina after that is just not the same. Obviously, she's very traumatized, has a lot of PTSD, and starts wanting to literally, die. So she attempts jumping off of the roof, and that leads Damien to taking her to get some psychiatric help. But he realizes that the shock therapy and the medications, like, it's just putting her in more pain and putting her, and it's just, like, so sad. He just couldn't see her in the shock therapy, which is understandable. So then he creates this entire lie that he tells Audrina so that she isn't feeling the trauma as much anymore, but it doesn't exactly work. It's very weird, and I don't understand how he would have thought of this, but I mean, I guess anything to keep your daughter out of the shock treatments, but like still, he still pisses me off. Basically, he talks the entire family into doing this too. His own wife, Audrina's cousin, Audrina's aunt. He talks them all into gaslighting Audrina, never telling her what time it is, never telling her what the date is. They mess with all of the clocks so they all say something different, and never have the correct newspaper in the house. They never tell her when her birthday is. They'll just randomly be like, "Hey, today's your birthday," even if like just last week she had a birthday. Like they'll just do that so that she doesn't know what time it is. He never sends her to school because he's scared that she's going to get schmaped again. And he tells her that she used to have a sister who was also named Audrina that he named her after. That had this gang schmape happen to her, and that is why that he won't let her out of the house. So Audrina grows up thinking that she has an older sister also named Audrina who died after the gang schmape, and she was named after her and is supposed to be a better version of Audrina than the last Audrina. And that is something that her father emphasizes. He's like, "You will be better than the first Audrina. You'll be even better than her. You get all of her memories. Here, rock in this rocking chair that used to be Audrina's, and you remember all of her memories, and you become just like her. You're gonna be the perfect Audrina." Some weird crap like that. So Audrina spends her whole life feeling like she is not enough because she oh god. She spends her whole life feeling like she is not enough because she's comparing herself to this oh my god, please, thank you. She's comparing herself to this alternate version of herself that literally never existed, but that she's forced to see the tombstone of all the time. Every week they bring her out to mourn her old self, her older sister, and manipulate her into thinking that, you know, her sister had this thing and she just has her sister's memories somehow. They just gaslight the heck out of her. And if you want to read a horror novel, read My Sweet Audrina, because that book is so effed up beyond repair. In my opinion, it's even worse than Flowers in the Attic. Like, it is so bad and effed up and messed up, and the thought process behind Damien is just so disgusting and selfish and pisses me off. So yeah, he starts off with this huge lie of gaslighting his own daughter and telling her that her older sister is dead and forcing her to go to her older sister's grave every week and not letting her go to school. On top of that, he gets so annoyed at his own wife because she's so pretty. Whenever they will have parties, he hates whenever his wife is the center of attention because he wants to be that. And so he always would like bring her down a notch, insult her in front of people, not make her feel adequate. So his wife is always depressed. Eventually she gets pregnant but dies during childbirth, and then he gets with her sister. He gets with his wife's sister right after his wife dies of childbirth, and he finds out once the child is there that the child is mentally disabled. So he's so ashamed of that he doesn't bring that child home for 2 years, because he's just so ashamed of that because of the times that these books were taking place in the 50s and 60s. It's way more shameful to have a disability and such. And he also probably just didn't want to deal with her. He's just so selfish that he most likely didn't want to deal with this new daughter. The only thing he sees it as, he starts to see during those 2 years, while his new daughter is in the hospital, that Audrina is trying to grow up and go away from him. Audrina is actually, getting out of the house a lot more, wanting to get out of the house more, asking to take piano lessons because her mother used to play piano, so she wants to have homage to that. He does let her do that. But he's realizing that Audrina's eventually going to want to leave him. So Then he decides out of nowhere, oh, actually, I do care about my mentally disabled daughter. Audrina, we're gonna bring her home, and you're gonna stay and take care of her, right? Cause she loves you. You gotta stay for your sister, right? So as soon as he brings home the sister, he doesn't even tell Audrina what's up. Audrina has to see it herself. That her sister's a little bit like not, there. He basically uses that as a manipulation tactic to be like, yes, Audrina, you will stay with me forever because you have to take care of this little girl and she's your responsibility now. He straight up says, it's your responsibility. It's your little doll. It's basically your little sister. You're going to take care of her. So now it's on Audrina to teach this girl how to read, do everything, because obviously he's not letting her go to school either. All of this, and this is just him specifically using it as a tactic to keep Audrina around. And even Audrina's aunt sees this and tells Audrina that specifically. She's like, can't you see that he just wants to keep you here? You really should leave. Like, because even the aunt, she's always loved him, but he's never not. Okay, let me tell you guys this. Before he married Audrina's mom, he had gotten Audrina's mom's sister pregnant with Vera. So Audrina's cousin Vera is actually Damien's daughter. But that isn't a secret that they all find out until later, until after Audrina's mom is dead. So literally, oh my god. He literally doesn't care. He's like, as long as I have a woman and whatever. He hops between women. So Vera's mother, Audrina's aunt, loves Damien, but also like hates the world that he's created and hates being there. But stays because she hopes that he will eventually like see her and love her, and he eventually does. But then, Vera kills her own mother by pushing her mother down the stairs. So then Damien's alone again, but Damien cannot handle that. Damien cannot be by himself. Damien hates himself, you can tell, cannot stand to be alone with himself for 1 minute. So he goes out to the neighbor's house that Audrina had been telling him about. And then, this is the neighbors, by the way, is Arden, Audrina's husband's family, but they aren't married yet. Audrina's not married yet at this point, but they're like the next door neighbors. Arden is the next door neighbor. Damien goes to the next door neighbor's house, meets Arden's mother, who's disabled, and charms her so much that he immediately moves her into his house. And I don't know if they get married, but they do have plans to. So he just immediately, after another woman just dies, he just immediately is like, okay, on to the next, onto another woman. And he is just so sly and tactful. He can just, oh my god, he has all these women, even though they see his flaws, they are just like falling for him left and right. It's so freaking annoying. And then you already know that he saw that Audrina was trying to leave with Arden, so he manipulates Arden into staying by being like, hey, I'll give you this really high-paying job, and you can live in my super expensive house, and I'll give you all this money, so Arden stays. Damien is just such a manipulative prick. He claims to love Audrina, but then does all of this crap to her, and I'm just like, that is not real love. You are just selfish, and you just want her here with you. Yeah. He dies of old age, which sucks. He never fully gets punished. He just, oh my god, I hate him. Lake of Fire. He is just, he pisses me off. Yeah. And he didn't even care for, hold on, I want to look this up, but see, this is why you don't trust AI, because this just said that Audrina doesn't have a little sister, and that is not true. What the fuck? It's not telling me what her sister's name is. Sylvia, yes. Sylvia's honestly my favorite character in the My Sweet Audrina uh series. I just love her so much. Um but seriously, like, Damien never cared about Sylvia and just used her as a pawn to just keep Audrina around, and that's just effed up in my opinion. Okay, next person. This is okay. I know this is from the Heaven books. Whoopsie, whoopsie. Hello. We haven't talked much about the Men in the Heaven series yet, but we will get into that right now. Mm. Sorry, guys. There's just so many names. Yes! Okay, okay, okay. This right here, this is gonna be interesting. 'Cause, like, we're starting from, like, someone who's not as big of a major character in the series as other people, and this man is named after another guy who plays a bigger role in the Heaven series. But I'm gonna try to explain this. So basically, this is Luke Jr. He, I feel like it's gonna be really hard to start with Luke Jr. I feel like we should, like, start with someone else and then go from there or something. I'm gonna start with Luke Sr. because that's a lot easier to explain how we get to Luke Jr. Okay, okay. So basically, Luke Sr. is a drunk and a man who has always cheated on his partner, no matter who it was. Um. So okay, I'm gonna go all the way back to the prequel, the fifth book in the Heaven series that Andrew Niederman wrote. Um. Basically, when Luke's growing up, he's a pretty happy-go-lucky kid. He lives, very poor, in the Willies. That's what they call it. And is looked down upon by everyone else because everyone looks down on the Castiles, which is their family name. He is the good brother out of all of his brothers. His other brothers went to jail for making and selling moonshine. And he was the only one who avoided going to jail because of his love for animals. He kind of focused more on that. And such. But he was always, like, such a good looking dude, and women were always all over him, even when he was super young. Eventually he's at a train station for some unknown reason. I forget. I think he's, like, traveling back home from the circus or something like that, or he's just there trying to earn some change or something like that, and he sees, gosh darn it, who's Heaven's mom? What's her name? Heaven's mom. Lee, yes. Okay. So he sees Lee Van Voreen, which is Heaven's mother. He sees that she's pregnant already, but he just thinks she's so beautiful and, like, talks to her and falls even more in love with her when he talks to her, and takes her on a cute little date to the circus and shows her all the animals and all the like all of that. but causes her to miss her train to her aunt's house. So Lee never makes it to her aunt's house where they would have proper medical care for her to have her baby in a hospital. So Lee, she misses her train, but she's okay with it because she ends up falling in love with with Luke, and he proposes to her after just like one day. Like, it's fucking crazy. And then he brings her home to his family and is like, well, she missed her train, so can she stay with us in our tiny shack of a home? And they're like, sure. And Lee kind of learns what it's like to live a lot more poor than what she's used to. Lee comes from like lots of money and stuff like that. But eventually Lee does have her baby, Heaven, but dies in childbirth. But what we realize is, if you're looking at the timeline, in the fifth book, Lee herself says that she was never cheated on by Luke, but he is gone a lot. And if you look at the timeline when Heaven's brother was born, Tom, Heaven's brother Tom was born. They were born in the same year. And for them to be born months apart, that means that he had to be having sex with another woman while Lee was still alive, but just at home, being the dutiful wife. So that's just effed up. Even before Lee even died, he's over here out having sex with other women because how else does Tom exist? It just doesn't make sense. He insists that he didn't have sex with anyone until after Lee died, but I disagree. No, because how can Heaven and Tom only be like 3 months apart if he wasn't having sex with anyone else other than Lee until after Lee died? That doesn't make any sense. So he had to be cheating on Lee while she was pregnant, in the short, 6 months while she's with them, before she dies in childbirth. But because dies in childbirth with Heaven, he has a hatred for Heaven and just treats her like crap compared to the rest of her siblings. Heaven's the oldest, so she ends up having to like take care of her siblings whenever Luke's out drinking. He becomes a drunkard. He sells moonshine as well, and that's what keeps him away from the house a lot, is because he's out doing illegal work, selling moonshine and getting drunk off of his own stash. He's also out whoring. Um, while he's married to the woman who gave him Tom. So right after Lee dies, he just immediately gets married to the woman he was cheating on Lee with. But also treats that woman like crap and is cheating on that woman with other whores and stuff. Eventually gets an STD and gives it to his wife, and she births a child that also has the STD that, dies shortly after it's born because it's sick. And so he literally like just does not care about anyone or anything, always is abandoning his family, leaving the children to be taken care of by Heaven and his wife, who's way overworked with all the children, and he's cheating on all of his partners. He is just a really crappy dude, and it doesn't get better. This is all just at the beginning of the novel of Heaven that we find out too. So as Heaven is growing up, she can feel the hatred that her father has towards her. He very openly treats her differently from everyone else in the house. And eventually the family gets so poor after his second wife leaves him because, her child just died, and she now has an STD, like she had already been talking about she'd wanted to leave for some time. So she abandons all the children that she birthed, and abandons Luke. So Luke, now that he doesn't have anyone to take care of the kids and sees that they're suffering, he decides to sell each kid for $500 a piece to different people. In his mind, he thinks it's better because he's having wealthy people come and pick the kids, so then the kids won't have to live in a life of poverty anymore. So he thinks he's doing them a favor, when it's like, no, you're literally ripping them away from any home that they've ever known, and you are disgusting. These are your own children. Why would you sell them? Blah. Uh, Eventually, he sells all the kids except for Heaven, and he originally wasn't even planning on selling Heaven because he does hate Heaven, but he also secretly, as she's been growing up, she now looks a lot like Lee, his first wife that died in childbirth, and so he attempts to schmape his own daughter. And the only way this is stopped is because Heaven's grandfather is still alive at this time and says, no, you better stop. You better find her a home right now and sell her because this is not happening in our house. No. So Luke gets caught in his drunken haze and is like, okay, and ends up selling Heaven. He gives Heaven the choice of two different families and pretends like he doesn't know anything about either of them, but he really actually does. And one of the options that he chose is a woman that he spurned. He used to like play around and have sex with her before he met Lee, and then he just abandoned her. And so this woman is so pissed still, but he knows that this woman has a grudge on her, on him, but he still lets this woman buy Heaven and take her into her care. And this woman just abuses Heaven because Heaven looks like Lee, who Luke left that woman for. This woman that Heaven gets sold to is, let me look up. Kitty. This woman named Kitty, like, Luke used to have a thing with her until he met Lee, and then he just completely abandoned her. And he knows that Kitty won't treat Heaven well, but he still lets Kitty buy Heaven from him. And, she treats Heaven like crap and kills Heaven's animals and breaks Heaven's only things from her mother. It is awful, and Luke knowingly puts Heaven in that situation and just doesn't give a crap. And this is all just the first book, too. Like, later on, Heaven finds out that Luke wasn't her dad, because when Luke found Lee, Lee was already pregnant. So Heaven finds out that she actually isn't Luke's kid, so then she leaves to go find her real father. And Luke says that he'll set everything up for her, but once she gets there, literally, like, we're talking about Tony now. Tony is Heaven's real father, because he raped Lee, and that's why Lee ran away to the train station, is because Tony had raped Lee, and Lee was running away from Tony, who's her stepfather. And that's how Lee met Luke. So, anyways, Heaven is going to see Tony for the first time, her real father, after she finds out that Luke isn't her real father. And Luke's like, yeah, I'll set all this up for you. She gets there, and Tony has no idea what's going on. If his own daughter's dead or alive, he has no idea. She's remarried. He has no idea of anything. So Luke said he was going to set stuff up and just didn't. He just didn't. Yes, he does give Heaven the information where to find her father and stuff like that, and tells her the truth of where she comes from. But that is after so much trauma has already happened. She's already been sold and stuff. So, like, and he's only doing this because he meets another woman, of course. Luke gets clean from his STD and finds another woman, convinces her that he loves her. She looks exactly like Lee, by the way, because of course she does. And she convinces him to make better with his kids that he sold. So the only reason why he's even reaching out to Heaven in the first place is because another woman made him, and not because he actually wanted to himself. So the only nice thing he ever does, which is giving Heaven the actual truth, isn't even because he wanted to do it. It's because someone else made him. He then starts a circus, And he offers that Heaven can come and live with him, but she says hell no, of course. And she sees the circus and she's like, this is so stupid. Why? Like, Luke has convinced Tom, Heaven's brother, who used to be like really academically driven, has convinced him to drop out of school and to just work at the circus for Luke, because Luke doesn't have a lot of money, so Luke needs all the help he can get. So he's convinced his son to not go to school and to just stay and be on the circus with him. And then on top of that, once Tony finds out about Luke's circus and stuff, goes behind Heaven's back and talks to Luke and buys the circus and sells it to Luke for $1. So Luke gets to have the circus for just $1. And buying the circus is nothing for Tony because Tony's rich. And in exchange for selling the whole circus to Luke so that Luke can own it instead of rent it, because Luke was kind of renting it before, but now Luke owns it. But in exchange, Tony says, you can have this property, your circus that you've always wanted your whole life, if you never talk to Heaven ever again. And Luke's like, okay, without a thought. It's like, sure, I'll never talk to her again. It's fine. What? What? So Heaven is over here distraught because she feels sad that she was left in a bad place with her stepfather Luke. So she tries to reach out to him multiple times, and he never replies, and she doesn't understand why, until Luke is in a car accident and dies, and all the truth comes out about Tony buying Luke's circus and making Luke not talk to Heaven ever. And oh my god, like, this man dies and it's just terrible. All throughout, like, the books, all Heaven is being told by everyone, by Tom, her brother, by Luke's new wife, by Tony himself. All she's being told is that, oh yeah, he's such a good guy. You really should forgive him for all the bad ways he treated you when you were little. But as the books keep going, you just keep seeing all this more crappy stuff that he does, and he never redeems himself. Ever. He is also, in my opinion, the reason why Tom, Heaven's brother, dies. Because, I guess you can blame Heaven for this too, but it's like, dude, come on. Here, I'll explain. It's like, dude, come on. Heaven, basically, because she's so pissed at her dad for taking Tom away from education and getting a real job, she decides to dress up like her mother, Lee, and dyes her hair and goes to the circus. But that night, Luke is not at his normal space. Usually he's the caller of the circus, but that night he was switched to lion duty. And so he gets distracted when he sees Heaven dressed up as Lee and is literally crazy and is like, oh my god, Lee, you've come back, and like gets a boner and like leaves the fucking lion cage open, and that the lions maul Tom. So yeah, I don't know. Yes, you can blame Heaven. She was wanting to get that revenge, and it backfired on her. But it's also his fault too. Like, there's just so much that's his fault, and he just never gets redeemed, even though everyone in the book is like, please, forgive him. He is just continually shown to be a shitty person, and I hate him. And Lake of Fire, honestly, I'm gonna put him right behind Tony. Because fuck all of this. We're gonna do it like this. Oh, there we go. So far, this is how I like it. Yeah. Arden is a little above, gosh darn it, I'm forgetting names already. Bart. Because, again, Bart, we see his growth and see why he is the way he is and stuff like that. So I have a little bit more empathy, but these guys, F all these guys, I swear to God, worst. All bad. Bad. So, anyways, Luke Jr., You know how I said that Luke got married a third time after he got his STD fixed with medicine? He ends up having a kid with his third wife, naming it after himself because he is so, like, selfless, you know? He's definitely not obsessed with himself. I'm using sarcasm. And Luke Jr. is actually raised quite well, isn't even thought of as a scapegoat or anything like that, but he ends up becoming an asshole anyways, which is really annoying to me. We get the fourth book in the Doppelganger, what am I saying? In the Heaven series, that's from Heaven's daughter's point of view, and you can just tell that he is in love with Heaven's daughter. Let me look up what Annie, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure Annie is Heaven's daughter. Hold on, let me look. Yes, you can tell that Luke Jr. is in love with Annie and is just so jealous of his cousin whom Annie is in love with. Annie is in love with her own cousin who was raised next to her whole life. But you can tell that he is jealous of Annie's cousin, so anytime that he can get in between them or manipulate the situation to make Annie only his and only spend time with him and not his cousin, he takes advantage of that, and eventually, Heaven gets in a car accident with her husband, and Annie's in the back seat, but Annie lives, but Annie's parents die, so Annie has to go live with Tony. And she has no idea of the past with Tony. Again, this is another thing that frustrates me about main characters in V.C. Andrews' books when they become adults. They always, as children, they're like, I will not be this abusive to my kids when I am older. I will be a great parent and stuff. But then they aren't honest. And they just lie, just like their parents lied to them. And then the cycle of trauma just keeps continuing. If Heaven had just told Annie what had happened with Troy schmaping her mother and Lee getting with Luke and all that, if Heaven had just told Annie all this before Heaven died, then Annie would have known that Tony was a bad guy. Sorry, I know I keep saying Troy and Tony. Sorry. This is Tony. Tony, bad guy. Troy is his brother, not as bad, but they just have very similar names. I'm sorry. So she would have known, though, if Heaven had told her everything about Luke and Tony and all of that, how much of a schmapist he is, then Annie would have never went and stayed with him in the first place after the car wreck when her parents die. But of course she doesn't know anything, so she's going blind into this schmapist's house, and Luke Jr. also doesn't know anything of this, so he's going into business with Tony now. Tony's like, hey, do you want a job? I'll pay you lots of money, and just basically manipulates Luke Jr. into working for him. So once Tony starts showing his abusive tendencies toward Annie, Luke Jr. just doesn't believe Annie when she's straight up telling him, hey, Tony's showing up in the middle of my room at night naked, trying to lay in bed with me and trying to touch me, and is calling me Lee and Heaven. And Luke's like, what? No. And it just stays in denial about it because he's like, no, this money's pretty great. Like, I wouldn't want to give that up for crap. And also, he is in love with Annie, so he's happy that Annie's here in Tony's house and not near Annie's cousin who she's in love with. So he's just happy that she's away from the other guy. So he's like, yeah, we'll just keep you here. We'll just keep you locked up here. And no, Tony could never do something so bad. So yeah, he is the reason that Annie is continued to be abused when she's in her handicapped state after the car wreck. So he just pisses me off. I'm gonna go straight to hell for him since he doesn't, schmape anybody or kill anybody or anything like that. But still straight to hell because, dude, you had such a good, growing up. Sorry, I got hypochondria about my toenails. Honestly, real. That is okay. Sorry that I was reading comments, but, literally, he's the reason why Annie faces so much more abuse than she would have, and he just doesn't believe her. He doesn't believe victims, so I'm putting him in straight to hell. He had such a good, like, childhood. I don't understand how he becomes the greedy, gross monster that he does, but yeah. Okay. Next picture is John Amos. Now, we've already talked about him a little bit, but I'll go into more specifics with him. He is the butler throughout the Dollenganger series at the Foxworth Mansion. He is Malcolm's, which is, Corinne's dad. He is Malcolm's butler all throughout when Corinne is growing up, and he is Olivia, Corinne's mother's brother. Now, going back to talking about the way Andrew Niederman gets things mixed up and stuff, in the book, in the 5th book of the series, Andrew Niederman says that John Amos is the reason why Olivia and Malcolm become so heavily religious, and that they only become heavily religious later in life, and it's because of John Amos coming to live with them after both their sons die, presumably. Obviously, we find out that Joel is still alive. I told you guys about Joel mentoring Bart. But they think Joel and Malcolm Jr. is dead, so they are in grieving. John Amos comes to live with them, and he convinces them that Jesus is the only right way, and makes them heavily into religion. It's where they're like that in the first book. But in my opinion, again, because of the way that Corinne describes her childhood in the first book, being heavily full of religion and all of this, I do not think that, Malcolm and Olivia gained religion later in life like Andrew Niederman wrote. I think they had it, later in life. I think they had it way earlier in life. I think John Amos helped that, but I don't think that it was later in Malcolm and Olivia's lives that they became religious. I think they had always been just religious fanatics, and John Amos heightened that up. John Amos was in the house while Corinne grew up and always lusted over her. So he watched this child grow up, and later, we already talked about in the 3rd book, he blackmails Corinne into marrying him, which is disgusting. So he watched this girl grow up and is like, let's get married. And I'm pretty sure he schmapes her. So that's disgusting. He's also the reason why Corinne and Christopher, like Olivia finds out about Corinne and Christopher, is because he's the one who finds out about them and is like, hey, your daughter's being weird incesty, and Olivia doesn't believe it at first, but then eventually finds out, Schmape, yeah. So yeah, he grew up being the butler, always wanting to be Malcolm. Basically, Malcolm is like who he wishes he was, because Malcolm is actually handsome and can get women, and John Amos cannot. He's just a butler, and he wishes he had all the money that Malcolm had. And he idolizes Malcolm. Even when Malcolm dies, he steals Malcolm's diary and gives it to Bart, and as we talked about, that does turn Bart into the incel that he becomes later in life, using Malcolm's diary as his little Bible, because John Amos says to. So, John Amos is the butler. He doesn't know that there are children in the attic, but he thought that they were mice. If you guys remember, if you guys have read the first book in the Dollenganger series, Flowers in the Attic, he is the butler in that scene when Chris is out trying to steal money from his mother. Chris listens to a conversation between John Amos and a maid when they're having sex, and that is how Chris finds out about the poison. Chris Jr., not Christopher, when they're locked in the attic. So John Amos is there throughout the whole thing, and once Bart is dead, manipulates Corinne into marrying him, and then they end up moving next door to Kathy and Chris's house in the 3rd book, and John Amos, manipulates Bart. and I believe he does eventually get away with it. I don't think he dies at the end. With the fire, Corinne dies in the fire at the end, but I think he just runs away after setting the house on fire, and we just never hear from him again, which is shitty. Or he dies in the fire. I don't know, but I remember being kind of like, man, that was anticlimactic. But yeah, I wish he got more what he deserved, because he's just such a shitty person and is part of why all of this crap happened. So I'm gonna put him at Lake of Fire. I would put him above Bart though, and above Arden too. Cause Arden's just a whiny, sex-crazed baby. Honestly, Arden's just a whiny, abusive prick. He isn't manipulative. He's just like, why won't you have sex with me? Whereas John Amos is like very planned and calculated, and is like, I am going to manipulate you into marrying me. So that's why I would put him above these two. But yeah, I mean, he created him. So okay, next person we have is Jory. Jory is Bart's older brother. Kathy and Chris's son. I don't know what you just said. As we have talked about, in the second book of the Dollenganger, Flowers in the Attic series, Kathy gets a multitude of different partners. And one of them, he is on this list. Hold on. Honestly, I'm gonna do his father first. Hold on. Julian. Yes, Julian. Okay. I'm gonna do Julian first and then Jory, because Julian is Jory's father. So Julian, he is a few years older than Cassie. Not Cassie, sorry, Euphoria. Than Kathy. Now that Kathy is out of the attic, she is taking dance lessons, and she meets Julian there, and he is older than her, but he kind of manipulates her into dating him. And then once he actually has her, he is very physically abusive towards her, is cheating on her all throughout, schmapes her, and literally Kathy catches him manipulating and trying to get with her little sister Carrie, and this also, he's part of the reason why Carrie does end up killing herself, because she felt so guilty about making out with Julian behind Kathy's back. That's part of it. So, like, he is disgusting. I do not like him. He is a manipulator, plans all this out, and a huge cheater. He thinks he's just this amazing dude. No, he's just so freaking annoying. He does die in a car accident while he's yelling at Kathy, like, his rage while driving is what kills him. Like, haha, loser. But Kathy is already pregnant by the time that he dies, so, you know, there's that. He's just, I hate him. Again, Lake of Fire, gross. Carrie was like 13, 14 when he was trying to do stuff to her, so, like, what the fuck. LMAO, the incels of the book, yes. Back in the traditional day. Yeah, for real. So yeah, he is just annoying. He's only there in the second book, but Jory is named after him. Jory's name is Corey and Julian mixed together. Corey is Kathy's and Chris's little brother that died in the first book in Flowers in the Attic. And then, you know, we know Julian dies in a car wreck. So when Kathy gives birth to her son Jory, she names him Jory, a mix between Corey and Julian, to honor the dead. So Jory, he's actually very sweet. I think he's my favorite of Chris and Kathy's kids. He's very sweet. All he wants is just, like, his family members to be happy, and for his family to know that he loves them and it doesn't hate them at all. Honestly, yeah, he just goes and you can do no wrong, but he's way more you can do no wrong than Christopher is. Like, oh my god, he gets permanently disabled as we mentioned earlier because Bart plans with Joel, who is Malcolm's son that Malcolm thought was dead. They plan and do make him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, basically, and that causes his wife, the ablest bitch that she is, to leave him because he's also a famous dancer just like his father, and she was too, his wife was, but she leaves him because he can't dance anymore, and she leaves him with their two kids, they're twins. She leaves him with their children because he's disabled and she can't have a man in a wheelchair, and it's so sad, and I just love him, and he's such a good dad, and he doesn't treat either of his kids any better than the other one. He is very sweet. He gets a little angry for a little bit because he can't do a lot of the stuff that he used to be able to do with his legs. I don't know, I just like really relate with him and empathize with him, and it was very heartbreaking to see when his wife left him because of his disability. I love Jory so much, and he's so sweet, and he still forgives his brother even after everything because his brother obviously was highly manipulated, and Jory can see that his father, Chris, does not treat Bart the same that he treats Jory. So Jory tries to be there for Bart in the way that Chris isn't. So yeah, I put Jory there. I just freaking love him. Honestly, okay, now that we're kind of getting more into the Heaven story, I want to, get through all of the Dollenganger, Flowers in the Attic guys. Let's talk about... No, actually, hold up, actually. I need to talk about Malcolm before I can talk about Garland. I'm sorry, I know I'm all over the place right now. I think I'm just gonna do Malcolm right now. So Malcolm, he is the reason why the children in Flowers in the Attic get locked in the attic in the first place. Originally, when he finds out that Christopher and Corinne are doing incest behind his back, Malcolm already hated Christopher for being a threat to his name. The fact that Christopher could take some of his money for all the business that he's worked hard to do. So he already doesn't like him, and then the fact that he never does anything weird incesty with Corinne that is explicitly talked about, but he is weirdly controlling about Corinne and wants her to just be with her dad for her whole life. So he hates that she chose literally his brother that he hates as her partner. So that was even worse of a spurn. He kicks them both out for the incest. Never finds out that they have children. Olivia does because Malcolm asks for there to be a secret spy spying on the family to get notes about it, and Olivia finds out about the children from the secret spy, but she doesn't tell Malcolm about it, so he doesn't know about the children. But he literally he kicks out Christopher and Corinne, and then Christopher dies in a car accident, and then Corinne needs to come back to Malcolm and Olivia's house to live with her kids, but obviously Malcolm doesn't know about the children yet, and Olivia and Corinne know how Malcolm is. He's just very jealous. He does not like anyone else taking attention from him, and if he associates these children with Christopher, he will most likely not love them, and Olivia and Corinne know that, so they do not tell him about the children at first, and then eventually it turns into, we're just not going to tell him at all, but let's just tell the children that we are going to tell him, even though we aren't. And then when he dies, let's not tell the children that he's dead, and just lock the children in the attic and kill them. Yay. So basically, the reason why the kids are in the attic is because he wouldn't have approved of them, so they were being hidden and almost murdered because of him. If you see, hold on, actually, I have the book. if you see on the inner pages of Flowers in the Attic, the cover, it has the four children with Malcolm's ghost over the top, because his ghost is the reason why they are in the attic. It's his generational family trauma that is affecting them in this moment, and why they're there. I'm gonna grab the book and I'll show you. You don't fuck with me or my bros. See, these are the four kids, and then Malcolm is up here. So he's hovering over them, and his childhood trauma turns into their childhood trauma, and things repeat themselves and such. The reason why Malcolm is such a hateful man is because of the way that he was raised and grown up in. Garland, his father, was abusive and angry towards him. Didn't really care for him, more cared about women and like social prestige and parties and money and such like that. Not really much about his own son. So Malcolm felt neglected. Malcolm was sent to stay in the attic for multiple days that we know of, that was mentioned. And like Malcolm is just very secluded in this mansion, you know. The Foxworths aren't really loved by everyone else in their community because of how rich they are. So like he's just very secluded, doesn't have a lot of friends, kind of just sees everyone as either a pawn to be used or a rival. You know, he never really got close to anyone, so, and learned that he had to manipulate to get what he wants. Whenever he would be his emotional self, you know, his father, Garland, would whip him into shape, be like, no, you can't be like that. Even after, you know, because Malcolm's mother leaves when Malcolm is really young. Garland is disgusting. He manipulated a 13-year-old when he is 23. Garland, not Malcolm, manipulated a 13-year-old when he was 23 to marry him. And of course, you know, she realizes she was way too young and manipulated in the situation, so she leaves. But Malcolm hates women because of that, because she left him her only son with his abusive father, Garland, not caring what would happen to him. So that's what makes him hate women, and then him hating other men. You know, his father is abusive towards him, and is just like putting women over him. His you know, his father gets another woman, who this time is 14. And instead of just immediately marrying her like he did with his first wife, this one he like manipulates and wiggles his way into the family, gets to know the family, courts this woman for years and years and years before gets married, so that she's really manipulated into the relationship and will not leave, like his other wife was. He is just a disgusting pervert man who likes little 13-year-olds. It's gross. Malcolm's father. And that's where Malcolm gets it from. Yeah. So yeah, Malcolm was treated badly by his father and grows up to be also a manipulator who is really good in business and such, and he basically lies to Olivia. He acts all like charming and romantic when he's courting Olivia, but then when Olivia finally marries him and they go back to the mansion, he is very cold, and insists that Olivia will bore him a son, and continues to schmape her in his own mother's room, his own mother's old room, until they have a child. But even when he gets sons, like, he doesn't even approve of them. He is so mean to Malcolm Jr. and Joel. He never treats them like they're enough. That's why Joel becomes also the master manipulator over Bart later in life, after he comes back from his fake death. Like, Joel faked his death to get away from Malcolm. That's how bad of a father Malcolm was. um, Malcolm kept a diary, and that turns into like the crazy stuff that Bart did. Malcolm is basically the catalyst of like the whole series, and Garland. They both are just terrible. Um, Malcolm hates his mother for leaving him when he was so young, but also like idolizes her in a way and wants like beautiful women, but also hates that he wants beautiful women. It's very complicated, weird, like layers in his brain. But yeah, so he is just gross, disgusting man. Very manipulative. Said, "Hey, Corinne, if you had any children, or if we find out that I have any children, then you're taken out of the will even after I die." That's how manipulative he is. He literally wrote that into his will. If it's found out that you have children, you will be disinherited even if I'm not alive. So it's just he is just so manipulative and just wanted Corinne, um, his daughter, to stay with him forever, and is gross. And yep, we're going Lake of Fire. I'm gonna put him. Mm, yeah, I think that's actually a good spot for him there. Now that we've talked about Malcolm, let's talk about Garland. So basically, Garland is the main antagonist of the book that I'm reading currently, which is Beneath the Attic. It's about the original first Corinne, which was Malcolm's mother, who left him when he was really young. Garland finds Malcolm's mother when she's 13 years old and manipulates her into like coming to his house and getting hastily married to him so fast when she's 13, he's 23. It's super young. And again, he acts like he is such a good actor. He is very good at acting like he has no idea what he's doing. He was like he shows up to Corinne's aunt's house, and is like, "Oh yeah, I was just dropping by. I just wanted to say hello because of your letter or whatever." After they get to talking, though, he acts like he's like, maybe, like contemplating things, and he's like, "Would you like to come to my house tonight?" And Corinne's like, maybe," and then eventually says yes, and he's like, "Great, because I already have the carriage waiting outside." So he already knew that he was going to ask her to come over, but he was acting like he didn't know that he was going to ask. He was just pretending to be sneaky about it. He is full on manipulating, like, I want her and I'm going to have her kind of thing, even though he's 10 years older than her. And she moves in, and then she finds out, like, how much of a lonely place Foxworth Hall really is, and ends up leaving him. And what he learns from this is that, oh, I need to be even more manipulative with my future wife. So the next woman that I marry, I'm going to make sure that I court her for years and years and years and know her family personally. And oh my god. So at least his second wife actually does consent to him, like, doing all this, and is genuinely in love with him. But it's all because of the manipulation that he's done, that he learned from failing the first time. He's like, I'm going to take what I learned from the first woman that I failed with and bring that into the second one. So, yeah, and then eventually he dies of a heart attack when he walks in on Malcolm trying to schmape his wife, and they have a fist fight, and then Garland dies of a heart attack. And yeah, and then Malcolm does schmape his stepmother, because she is so pretty and young, and he compares her to his mother who left him when he was really young. He's like, you're just like her, and naive and stupid and blah 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 and all this. So yeah, he's just disgusting and takes after his father, Garland. Garland is disgusting. Garland was raised by Neil, who I'm only hearing a little bit about now inside of the book Beneath the Attic that I'm reading right now. But Neil seems like he sucks. He is not very into whatever his son is doing. He is not interested. It's more of a children must be seen and not heard type thing. So we can see why Garland became the secretive, manipulative person that he was. Like, because he had to put up a front to be in high society, and then he's like, well, I may as well just work on get what I want and shit. after his family dies. So yeah, I would put Garland also in Lake of Fire. Um, I think I would put him probably after Malcolm right here if he was here, but he's not in this um list. I made this before I read Beneath the Attic or even knew that Beneath the Attic existed. So there's that. Um okay, now looking at this, there's only one Flowers in the Attic man left, so I'm gonna do that, and then all the rest are from Heaven series. So we're gonna do that. Uh yeah. So this last guy right here, let me look up what his name is. Dr. Paul. Yes. Okay. So, once Kathy and Chris escape the attic, they go on a bus, and they meet this really nice woman who says that she'll take him to the man. She'll take them to the man that she works for, who's very nice. And she does, and she asks Paul if he will take in the children, and he does. So Paul ends up taking care of Kathy, Chris, and Carrie. After the whole thing with the attic happens, he ends up formally adopting them as well because her mom doesn't. Kathy's mom doesn't even show up to court when there's the summoning happening. So yeah, immediately the court's like, "Yep, okay, you can have these children." So I still can't believe even after their mom didn't even show up to court to claim them that Chris over here is still like, but I love you, Mom. I don't know why Kathy can't forgive you. What? No, you are a fucking weirdo. She abandoned you on purpose. Your mother did, and you still mm-mm. Oh my god, go away. Go away. Ah! Okay. So anyways, yes, Paul does adopt the children, but with that, Kathy is at that time where she's only like she's now discovering that she does actually have like grown up feelings for certain men in her life and stuff like that. So she is using her feminine wiles on Paul. I'm not trying to blame her because Paul is the adult in this situation. He should have shut it down immediately, but in his mind he's like, "Oh, Kathy, why do you tempt me so? Oh, I can't resist. I must give in. Oh, Kathy, this is wrong, Kathy." So, but he still, like, has a relationship with a 14-year-old that he adopted, who came to him after a super abusive thing and is obviously traumatized, but then uses that as an excuse to be like, okay, yeah, actually, like, this 14-year-old's hot. Eventually, they do get married, but Paul dies a few years into the marriage of him and Kathy. And fucking Paul. Paul, at the end, in his will, he writes, "Kathy, you should get with Chris. He's waited long enough." So Paul is, like, part of the reason why Kathy gets with Chris, who is so stupid and is not awesome and treats Kathy's children badly. Paul is the reason for that, and yeah. So Paul is disgusting. Basically schmapes a 14-year-old, even though she wants him. It's just the age gap makes it unconsensual. So Paul's a weirdo. I'm going straight to jail. I think I'm going straight to jail. I don't know if I'm going straight to hell or straight to jail for him because he knowingly hurts a child, but like, oh my god, I don't know. Maybe I'll do straight to hell because he just annoys me. He's just a really annoying character, honestly. Okay. Now, all we have left is the men from Heaven series, which is cool. So, our next guy, let me look up his name real quick. No, that's not correct. There it is. Okay. Now we have Logan Stonewall, who is Heaven's husband in the series, in the Heaven series. I do not like him. I do not like this man. He is given so much of the benefit of the doubt from Heaven's POV all the time. She's like, well, I'm being so erratic and all over the place, so who could blame him for whoring it up with all these other women and crap like that, even though he still secretly wants me but is like super mad at me and takes Zinger out on me. I don't know. I'll start from the beginning. Basically, okay, so I already told you guys, Heaven is living with Luke, who hates her, and she's the scapegoat and is the oldest and is taking care of all these little kids. She meets Logan at school, and he sees how she takes care of her siblings so nicely, and he uses that to his advantage. He from my perspective, he really just likes that Heaven needs him. He likes to be needed, and he likes that Heaven needs his help. So she's a lot poorer than he is, so he's like, yeah, I'll buy you lunch and I'll buy your siblings lunch and stuff like that, and kind of uses that to weasel his way in because he just thinks Heaven is like so beautiful, so he's just like, I'm gonna do this. So he isn't even doing something out of the kindness of his heart, he's just doing it because he really likes Heaven. So he's doing that. And then him and Heaven, like date when they're like childhood sweethearts or whatever. But Heaven gets sold. It so has to be separated from Luke for a little bit. But eventually she does come back to the town she grew up in as an adult. And finds Luke again. But at that point, he's already been dating a bunch of other people, already had like sex with other people and stuff like that, and sees Heaven now that she's more better off, a lot more rich now that she lives with Troy. Sorry, Tony. This is Troy. This is Tony. Sorry. Now that she lives with Tony, she's a lot more rich and stuff, but she's very lonely, and that's why she's seeking him out. But he's just over here like, oh yeah, you're just rich now, you don't need me, you left me, you're so much better off without me. He finds out that she actually was sexually abused by her stepfather, who was so you know how Kitty bought Heaven from Luke, and Luke knew that Kitty would be an abuser. Kitty was married to another man, and that man abuses Heaven. And Luke finds out about this and blames Heaven and is like, yeah, you wanted that, even though Heaven did not. And Heaven felt so unloved that she felt like she had to have sex with her stepdad to get any love and get any validation for anything. But Luke took that personally and was like, no, you wanted that to happen to you. Disgusting. And then he goes and has sex with other people, and he's like, yeah, Heaven, you're rich now, you definitely don't need me. And Heaven, rightfully realizes, like, wow, you just liked me when I needed you, when I needed your help. Now that I'm just able to take care of myself, but still want you romantically, that's not what you want. And there's proof of this because he doesn't actually come to love Heaven again until Troy, who is Tony's brother, but Heaven kind of has a romantic relationship with him, until Troy leaves, and Heaven is distraught and in pain and sick and sad, and needs someone, that he falls in love with her and just cheats on his girlfriend at the time with Heaven, and immediately like just breaks up with her without a second thought. So he just does not care for women. He just wants to be needed, and it's really disgusting. So yeah, once Troy leaves, then Logan's like, oh, okay, now that you need me again, now that you're sick and need to be taken care of, okay, now I can be with you. I'll break up with my girlfriend, sure, whatever, not even a thing. Him and Heaven get married, right? Heaven walks in on him and Heaven's sister making out, and Heaven's sister is naked, and Heaven's sister has always had a crush on Luke. Let me look up Heaven's sister's name. Sorry. Fanny Castile. Fanny has always had a crush on Luke, so she's always trying to get with him. And again, it's just like the Arden situation of he's like, no, I don't want you, I want the other girl, but he's not forceful enough with it. He's still like, oh, you're kind of hot, but like, no, I like your sister and or cousin better though. So he doesn't stave off the woman, and the woman keeps trying. Eventually, he does cheat on Heaven with Fanny, Heaven's sister, and gets Fanny pregnant. He claims that Fanny schmaped him and coerced him into it, and maybe that was true, but there's been so many times, like, there's just so many coincidences of Fanny being naked in front of him, Fanny being sexual in front of him, and him not saying no until Heaven is there. That I don't know. I'm suspicious. I don't know if that was actually Schmape or not, because even in the fourth book, he's totally down to dance with Fanny at Fanny's birthday party. He's like, oh yeah, Fanny, you want to grind on me in front of my wife? Sure. Uh, he's totally fine with that, and is like flirting with her while he's like drunk and stuff. So I genuinely don't think it was Schmape. I think him and Fanny did the deed, cheated on Heaven. Um, yeah, and yes, Heaven did cheat on Luke at the same time. Oh God, but it's not the same in my opinion. Oh my God. I'm gonna send this man straight to hell. He is the reason why Heaven dies and his daughter Annie is left without parents in the fourth book, because he drives while drunk and is in a fight with Heaven while he's driving about him dancing with Fanny, and Heaven's like, why did you even dance with her and all that. He's like, I don't know, she's hot. Like, that's not exactly what he says, but basically, you know what I mean. So he's the reason why they're dead. He's the reason why, like, yeah, he gets Fanny pregnant. uh, I just do not trust this man. I do not like this man. I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. His actions contradict everything he says. So, he pisses me off. He does not love Heaven. He loves what she does for him. So, yeah. Do not like that. I wanted to get into that. Let's get into Troy, because Troy is a big part of the Heaven series. It's the other half to the coin of Tony, basically. So Troy is Tony's little brother. Troy was raised by Tony because their parents died when Troy was really little, and Tony was just becoming a man. So Tony raised Troy, basically. But Tony, he claims to say that he loves his brother more than anything, and yet married the first woman that fell into his lap, and that hated his brother. He could tell that, like, okay, well, he said, okay, Tony says that he was lied to, and that Jillian, Gillian, not Julian, Jillian is his wife. This is Julian, and then we have Jillian, who is Tony's wife. He marries the first woman that falls into his lap, wastes no time in getting to know her, marries her like immediately, like within the year. Doesn't get to know her, and it turns out his wife actually hates Troy and treats him like crap. And Troy feels that and feels so sad, so he has a little hideout made for himself in the back of the house so that he can't be bothered. And honestly, it's a plus for him and Julian because then they don't have to see each other. Cannot Jillian cannot stand Troy, and I can't believe that Tony, even after seeing how Julian hates his brother whom he loves so much, I can't believe he stays with Julian. I do not understand. I do not understand. He claims to love them both, but then sacrifices them both for each other. He sacrifices Troy feeling safe in his own home to be with the woman Jillian. But then when Jillian gets sick in the head and is senile, he's all lying to her, being like, "Oh yeah, my brother's dead. You're just seeing his ghost. Here's a bunch of pills." And then she overdoses on them. So like, it's like, who do you love more? He tries to play both sides and then loses both of them. It's just, I hate it. I hate him. I hate him. I hate him the most about everyone. Can you tell? So anyways, Troy is raised by Tony. Oh my goodness. He's very artistic and very just in his feelings. Very prone to depression, bouts, and gets in his head a lot, with his thoughts. Heaven meets him once she moves into Tony's house. Tony says that she's forbidden to like talk to Troy. He doesn't even tell her that Troy's there. So she finds out about Troy, and then he's like, "No, you cannot talk to Troy ever again." But then of course that makes Heaven want to talk to Troy more. And then Troy and Heaven get together, and Troy proposes to her, and so they go to Tony and tell him that they are gonna get married, and he's like, "That's exactly how I planned it. Good. Yes, I wanted you to get with my brother because he's so prone to depression, and you can fix him." Basically, fucking again. This man just sees people as pawns to be used. I swear. So yeah, he manipulated that whole thing. Troy is a few years older than Heaven, so it's not really appropriate that him and Heaven would be together anyways. She is like 17 and he's like in his early 20s. And of course, he's her uncle. But she doesn't know that yet. She doesn't know that Tony is her dad. She still thinks that Luke is her dad. She's just like, "Oh, I'm going to stay with my mother's grandparents." She doesn't find out that Tony is her dad until later. So she's like, "Oh, I'm just going to stay with my mother's parents." And finds out that her mother had a stepbrother and stuff like that, and falls in love with that. She has no idea that like they are related because she thinks that this is her dad and not him. She thinks that they are not blood related; they're just related by marriage. So she falls in love with him, and they do all that. Eventually, Heaven goes on a little trip to get her family back together, because you know how every single kid in the family was sold to like different people. So she goes on a trip around the U.S. to find her family members and bring them all back together again and meet them again and make sure they're okay and stuff like that. But Troy gets in his head while Heaven is gone and thinks that Heaven has left him, because he really doesn't feel like he deserves Heaven at all. He thinks Heaven is like so much better than him and that he doesn't deserve her, and so he thinks that she's gonna leave him at any moment. And he gets like really sick and attempts suicide, and fakes his death for a while. Tony and Heaven think that he's dead, but he actually isn't. He faked his death. He comes back and tells Tony not to tell anyone that he actually is still alive. So Tony continues to lie to Heaven and to Jillian, and that's how Jillian thinks that she's seeing Troy's ghost, when really she's actually seeing Troy on the property, but she kills herself because she thinks she's crazy. It's so sad. Literally, oh my god. So yeah, lies. Troy's like, Tony, please don't tell Heaven that I'm here. But eventually Heaven finds him again anyways. And this is why I say it's different with like Heaven cheating on Luke with Troy versus Troy cheating on Heaven with Fanny. The difference here is Heaven thought that Troy was dead, and Heaven was engaged to him before, they were engaged. He was her first love, and then he presumably died, Um, and so she thought he was dead, so she settled for Luke as a second, not Luke, sorry, Logan. So she settled for Logan as a second choice when she really wanted Troy, but Troy she thought was dead. So she went with Logan. But she eventually finds Troy on the property, and they both are so happy to see each other that they just immediately like fornicate, you know. And it's not even like a thought, it's like, oh my god, I thought this person was dead and they finally came back to me. Like, I don't know, I can understandably see why, like, you would have sex with that person even if you are married to someone else. This is like someone you thought was dead and someone you were madly in love with. So it's different. Whereas with Logan, Fanny was someone he knew since he was little with Heaven. He grew up with Heaven and Fanny, and Fanny had been flirting with him his whole life, and he eventually just does give in. So it's just like, no, that's some odd stuff. It's not equal to me. So to me, I feel like Logan did worse than Heaven, even though they both cheated on each other. I think Logan's deed was worse than Heaven. But yeah, so Heaven finds out that Troy is still alive. They have sex. Heaven gets pregnant with Annie. So that's the secret that Heaven keeps from Annie. Heaven does not tell Annie that Logan isn't her father. So Annie grows up thinking that Logan is her biological father when it's really Troy. Heaven keeps this a secret because, Troy is her uncle, and it's like shameful because she eventually does find out what Tony did to her mom. And, that's shameful. She doesn't tell Annie that. Annie has to figure that out on her own and almost gets R-worded by Tony herself. If these parents were just open and honest with their children, I swear, like, so many bad things would have been avoided. So, honesty is the best policy. Troy, eventually, when Annie does come to stay with Tony after Heaven and Logan die in the car accident, Troy is the person that saves Annie from Tony. Troy calls, oh god, what's Annie's cousin's name? Okay. Luke Jr. Troy finds out that Tony's been attempting to schmape Annie, and so he contacts Luke Jr., who, wait a fucking minute, no, sorry, oh my god, I'm getting it all confused, sorry, oh my god, hold on, let me backtrack, hold on. Troy finds out what Tony's been attempting to do to Annie, so he calls, Drake. Oh! Fuck! Okay, I actually did get confused. Sorry, my bad, guys. This is Drake. Drake was the one who wished that Annie loved him, but she didn't, and she told him what Tony's been doing to him, and he's like, no, Tony gave me an amazing job. That's Drake. Sorry, I got the names confused. My bad, you guys. So Drake's the one who was like, no, Tony would never schmape you. He gave me a good job and all this, and just doesn't believe her when she tries to tell him. Troy finds out about what Tony's been doing because he knows that Tony did that to Lee. So he finds out about that and calls Luke Jr., who comes to rescue Annie. So these two are the reason why Annie is rescued from Tony and is not schmaped by him. So that's good. And he is the last to die of that entire family line. So yeah, and he dies of old age. I'm happy for him. This man dies senile, which is great. He goes fucking crazy and can't remember anything and thinks that people are other people who are not it. So I'm happy that Tony fucking gets his comeuppance. He's crazy, not taken seriously, and seen as a crazy man, and his house that he is so fond of and has so much ego and so much of himself put into falls into repair, and I'm just like, yes, you failed, you are a failure, and I hate you. um I'm gonna put Troy in annoying, because what the fuck, man? You didn't have to fake your death. You didn't have to run away, but you did, and that's why Heaven ended up with Logan in the first place. You and Heaven could have been together, but you effed it up because you were scared and you ran away, and then kept that you were alive a secret. So then your stepmom dies and all of this. So I'm just calling him annoying because he is just so afraid of love that he runs away from Heaven and f's everything up and pisses me off. It's more excused about the incest because he did not know that he was related by blood to Heaven, and neither did Heaven. So they got into a relationship before they even knew that, until Tony told them after Troy fakes his death. So, like, literally, Troy, you and Heaven could have been happy, but you left and fucked everything up. So he makes me mad, but like, I don't hate him because of what he does. He just annoys me because he's a pussy boy. So I'm gonna put him in annoying. He makes me mad, but I'm happy that he is a person who helps Annie in the end. Let's go to Luke Jr. As we said, so Luke Jr. is Logan and Fanny's son that they made together when Logan cheated on Heaven. And Fanny named her son Luke Jr. Sorry, Drake is Luke Sr.'s son with Luke's third wife. That's Drake, my bad. And then Fanny names her kid after Luke because she loved Luke so much. Even though he was low-key abusive and sold her, she didn't care. Fanny didn't care. She still loved Luke. So she named her child after her father. And he and Annie grow up next to each other, and are cousins, but are related because of Logan being both their fathers. This is one of the secrets that they actually are aware of, which is good. I'm like, at least someone's honest about something. Thanks, Fanny. God. So yeah, they do know that they are connected by Logan being both their dad, but they still really love each other anyways. And when Logan and Heaven die, and Annie is gone to live with oh my god, Tony, that's when Drake has, Annie separated from Luke and is happy, and Drake wants Annie to all to himself. And Luke the whole time is calling Tony's house all the time. Tony is like, oh, Annie's recovering, you can't talk to her. Or Drake answers the phone, is like, Annie's recovering, you can't talk to her. They're basically purposely keeping Annie away from him. He wants to come over with Fanny to bring gifts to Annie, and he gets shut down by Drake and Tony. It pissed me off so much. I was so happy when I was so happy when in the end Luke finally comes in and insists that Annie is there and that he needs to come in, and he barges past Tony and rescues Annie out of there. I was just so happy with that. I'm gonna say you can do no wrong. I know incest and all that, and they actually did kind of know that they are, they are blood related, and they've loved each other anyways, but, I don't know, their love is so pure, and he's not like Chris. He does not schmape her, or anything like that, and he's very gentle and sweet, and I don't know, everyone else is so mean to Annie. Poor Annie can barely walk too. I don't know. I don't hate their relationship. Maybe that says something weird about me. I don't know, but it's very sweet, and he very much takes care of her and tries to put her needs first, which is good. Even in the 5th book, when they come back after Troy has died, he's very are you sure you want to go in here? There's so much trauma here, and he's there to support her and stuff like that. So I do not mind him. I did want to talk in okay, let's just do the last guy in the Heaven series, and then I did want to talk about the love interest in the Dawn series as well. Um, so last but not least is Heaven's brother Tom that she grows up with. Remember, Luke was cheating on Lee, Heaven's mom, while she's came home with him. Yeah. Um, so Tom is born a few months after Heaven because Luke was cheating on Heaven's mom with another woman and marries that woman after Heaven's mom dies. Tom and Heaven grow up together and are a lot more academically driven than the rest of their siblings. Heaven helps keep him on the right track and really encourages him and is like, you really are smart, you know that, and you can do amazing things. He does eventually, when he gets sold to a farmhand, so he is like overworked and abused, just like Heaven. They are both overworked and abused. Um, yeah, but at that point, that's when he starts becoming a little bit different. Because for a while, he was pissed at his father for selling him and stuff like that. But he softens towards his father, Luke, over time. And is like, well, Luke doesn't treat me as bad as the farmhand does. And, well, Luke wants to give me a job at the circus. And he doesn't drink as much now. And he doesn't whore. He doesn't cheat on his new wife. But, like, honey, Tom, he still sold you as a child. He still abused you and hit you and tried to schmape your sister and was a drunkard. But you still forgive him and go and live with him and go work on his circus instead of getting an education and getting a good job for yourself and a nice life for yourself. Like, it just sucks and is so tragic. And Luke is part of the reason why Tom ends up dying at the circus. As I mentioned before, Heaven wants to get revenge on Luke, so she dresses up like her mother Lee, but didn't know that he was gonna be on the lion cages that night. And the lions get out when he's distracted at looking at Heaven, who looks like Lee, and Tom is mauled by the lions. So honestly, I'm gonna go annoying. He's more annoying to me than Troy, though. He's more annoying to me than Troy, because the way that he just sticks up for Luke, even though Luke never gets better as a person. He, of course, never knew about the whole thing that Tony paid off Luke never to talk to Heaven. But, like, oh my god, he still sticks up for Luke and is like, come on, Heaven, Luke is so much better now. Like, no, honey, no, he's not. He's not. So, I would say he's also kind of annoying because he just... how do you forgive this man after selling you? Like, what? Selling you to a horrible abuser for years. I don't understand it. And then the last person that I want to talk about, he's not on this list because I made this tier list before I had read the Dawn Cutler series. Last person I want to talk about is Jimmy Longchamp from Heaven series, and he is Heaven's love interest in the series, one of them, but like the main one. I would put him in annoying. I already know where I would put him in annoying. Because, well, for the first few books, I would put him in Can Do No Wrong, but then later when he gets older, he starts to get annoying. Basically, he grows up with Dawn. Also, I'm part of the VC Andrews fans that believe that the series of Dawn was part of the notes that VC Andrews left for Andrew Niederman after she passed away, because the premise of this series to me seems so much like a real story she would have written, but I feel like she would have written it better with different details than Andrew Niederman chose, and I feel like she would have made it a lot better than Andrew Niederman did. I feel like his execution with the details that she wrote and the secrets that would come out in later in the series, I think that he went about them not as well. But I am part of the people who think that Dawn was part of the notes that VC Andrews left for him. So in my head, it's still a VC Andrews kind of idea, but was fully written out by Andrew Niederman. But yeah, so Dawn and Jimmy grow up together. They grow up sharing the same room and the same bed, and kind of have the incestual vibes going on. I did want to say, like, the way that V.C. Andrews writes incest versus the way that Niederman writes it is, Niederman writes it as, oh, this is supposed to be, like, titillating and supposed to be, like, ooh. But the way V.C. Andrews wrote it is not that, and it's the way she writes it, there's, like, purpose in the incest, and there's reasons why it's there. It's not just there just to be there, like the way it is in Andrew Niederman's stories. I feel like if V.C. Andrews had actually wrote the Cutler series Dawn, then there would have been more explanation on, like, how the incest came to be and what was going on there. But, you know, Andrew Niederman wrote it, so we got that. They grow up poor together. But eventually it is found out that Dawn's parents had kidnapped her as a baby and decided to raise her as their own, and they lied about it to Dawn and Jimmy. So Dawn and Jimmy aren't even actually related. They are not blood related. So the fact that they like each other is okay, but this whole time they had been liking each other, thinking that they actually were related, so it's like, it's still gross. I don't like the way Andrew Niederman wrote that. But yeah, so Dawn finds out she was kidnapped when she was a child, and ends up living with her family that she was kidnapped from, so her and Jimmy are separated, and Dawn does get manipulated by an older man. She can sing, and she gets manipulated by an older singer, who leaves her pregnant in the street. He lies to her and says, oh yeah, I'll marry you, we're gonna have a great Christmas, and then just leaves her. And her evil grandmother sends her to live at this, like, run-down plantation. Yeah, also, there's a lot more, like, plantation and, like, weird southern stuff and weird, like Civil War references in Andrew Niederman's books versus V.C. Andrews. I don't really like the way he writes people of color, or the way he describes, like, the histories and stuff like that. It's just, it's not given the depth that it needs, and yeah. I just so much prefer V.C. Andrews over Andrew Niederman, as you know. So Dawn is separated from him. When she gets pregnant, she gets sent to, like, this old rundown plantation where she's abused and almost loses her baby because of the abuse that she suffers there. The only way she is saved is because Jimmy has this, like, psychic feeling. He's like, there's something wrong. Dawn would have contacted me by now. The fact that she hasn't, there's something wrong. So he comes to the house and insists to see Dawn, and so he finds her and rescues her there, even though, like, the auntie there was like, no, she's not here, even though she was, but she yelled for him, and he fought past the old lady and ran up to her and got her and rescued Dawn and helped Dawn get her baby back, and is not judgmental at all, unlike Logan. Jimmy does not blame Dawn for being manipulated by an older man. He blames the older man, which is good, and is like, no, I love you, Dawn, and I always have loved you, and I'm gonna support you, and I'm gonna be here for this baby, and I will treat it as if it was my own, which is great. And so yeah, he's pretty good can do no wrong up until that point. In the third book of the series, he gets a little because he misses his little sister that used to be with them before the family before the kids were taken away from the parents by child services, because the parents are kidnappers. So all the kids were rehomed. So he misses his sister. He doesn't know where she is. He hires a private investigator to find out where his sister is. He finds her. She manipulates him into thinking she's been sexually abused when she actually has not been. And oh my god, hold on, let me look up. Fern. He misses his sister Fern and wants to find her, and eventually does, but she lies to him and manipulates him. And Dawn has a lot more of her guard up, and catches Fern doing a lot of bad stuff, like stealing money, being promiscuous, and lots of other stuff like that, and catches her in her lies. But Jimmy just does not believe Dawn when Dawn tries to tell him what is up, and just stands by Fern the entire third book. In the fourth book, somehow it's switched, and Jimmy's like, I am so done with you, Fern. But we don't ever get to see that switch again. I feel like VC Andrews would have shown us and told us like what happened there and why he suddenly had his opinion switched, because it's just very random that he's like, oh yeah, okay, now I believe Dawn. Like, what? No, it was very weird. So I would say him annoying because he just does not believe Dawn. Please believe your wife. This is your wife that you've stuck with. Why would you not believe her, someone you've known for years, versus someone you just met a few months ago? It doesn't make sense, and he makes me mad. And I'm pretty sure he's part of the reason why their house burns down and him and Dawn die. Dawn could have not died, but she went back in and tried to rescue him out of the fire, so then they both end up dying. So yeah, I'm gonna call Jimmy annoying, but in the first two books he's actually quite sweet and can do no wrong. But the fact that he isn't believing his wife in that third book just really, really annoys me, and I don't like that. Trust your partner, god damn it! The reason why I don't want to go into the specifics of the other men in the Dawn series is because they aren't, like, their characters aren't as gone into as these other men had been gone into in V.C. Andrews' books. Like, Andrew Niederman does not write his characters as strongly as V.C. Andrews does. Like, all of these men that I have the pictures of, like, I can see their brain and understand where they're coming from. I hate it. I hate I hate the way they think and stuff, but I can totally understand what's going on here, and she writes it very well to where we understand the manipulative brain that these guys are. But with Andrew Niederman, I just feel like we don't know if Dawn's father is good or bad. We don't get very much of him at all. All of the men inside of just this the Dawn series, they are not gone into as in depth as V.C. Andrews does with the other men in her series. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that as well. I just get very frustrated. I feel like there's so much details missing from the characters that are in Andrew Niederman's books versus versus V.C. Andrews' books. So the characters don't seem as realized. The motivations are not clicking. Like, you don't fully understand why. Like, you have your suspicions, but you don't fully understand why everyone does what they do in, like, the Dawn series compared to, like, in the Dollenganger series or Heaven series. Everything is a lot more makes sense. And the Andrew Niederman's books just they don't fully. So it just, yeah. Thank you guys so much for letting me do this, talk about this. This has just been on my mind for so long, and I've needed to get this out of my system. I love V.C. Andrews, and I love her books. I am going to read once I finish Beneath the Attic and Out of the Attic, I am going to read the hold on. I am going to read the Bayou Family series next, which starts with Ruby. Um, I was originally going to stop reading Andrew Niederman's books after the series Dawn, but once I found out that the series Dawn is based off of notes from V.C. Andrews, I had to read that and see what Andrew Niederman did with just the outline of a story. And I found that I don't particularly like it as much, but I want to give him one more chance and see what he does when he creates an entire story out of his own mind where he won't have to lose any details that someone else came up with. It's all going to be a family and story that he came up with, all of his details. Hopefully he should be able to keep better track of the details since it's him making up the story, I'm hoping. So I will keep you guys updated when I read the Bayou Family series. Next, we'll see if he does good when it's a story of his own making and when he's not going off of notes of someone else. Because when he's going off of notes, he just forgets so many little details. So I'm hoping when it's his own story, he won't forget the details. So yeah, I've just been so intense about this for a while, and a lot of the other YouTubers that I've seen talk about these books, I would get really frustrated because I felt like they didn't understand V.C. Andrews and why she wrote the books and what they're there for and what they represent. The whole thing is just family trauma and how cycles will repeat themselves if you don't stop it. That is the whole of V.C. Andrews' message that she's trying to get across with all the books that she writes, is that let's break the cycle of family trauma. And I love that, and I think that's so healthy. And in a way, she herself did that because she didn't have any children and didn't inflict anything bad on them. So, yeah, I kind of hate that her family profits off of her legacy if her mom was abusive and if her family was as shitty, just like in these V.C. Andrews books. Then I kind of hate that her family still profits off of the money from these books from Andrew Niederman. But you know, what can you do? So yeah, if someone says that these are just trauma porn for the sake of it, that's not how I see it. And to me, these books are very accurate to real life and show the real complexities in real people's brains and why people do such horrible things that they do, and like what tragedies can create horrible people like that. I don't know. I just love it. I love V.C. Andrews' books, and I'm gonna keep reading, and I'm definitely gonna be rereading My Sweet Audrina and Flowers in the Attic. I've already reread the Heaven series twice, because it was just so convoluted with Troy and Tony and Troy leaving multiple times. So I had to read it multiple times so that I could get it in my head what really happened. Because I was like, wait, when did Troy leave? Where did he fake his death? What? Because like, it is not linear. You do not learn all of this information linearly in the books. The way that the information is given is very crazy and tactful and great, and this shows the amazingness of V.C. Andrews' writing herself. The way the secrets are given in Heaven, it's very crazy. It's not linear, so I had to read it twice and take notes. And I was like, wait, so this happened before this, and this happened before this. So we got this. I'm gonna do that with Flowers in the Attic as well. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you guys so much again for letting me do this, for letting me yap. I very much enjoyed doing this, and I'm so happy to finally have these thoughts off my brain, because watching some other people's YouTube videos, I would get very frustrated because they weren't seeing what I was seeing. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have a good night, day, whatever y'all are doing. I hope, yeah, if you guys are now interested in reading these books, I definitely would give them a read. There is trigger warning for lots of different stuff like that, but I think it's very good and these books, I just eat them up. I can just read a million of them. I take them all in, and I'm just gonna eat them. So it's great. Um, yeah, thank you again. I know I've said thank you a million times. I'm just so thankful that you guys let me do this. So yeah,